will run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in to 365 Sports. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, and a wild college football weekend, Craig. A lot of games that shifted people's expectations. A massive firing at Penn State, which even given the loss to Northwestern, I don't think most people saw coming, at least especially not right away. Texas OU was very much a tale of two halves and a tale of two different ways of preparing and the way that the teams looked at the games. It was fun all the way around, unless your team took a loss like my team did and your team did. But even still, a lot of really interesting things happened. That Bama and that Georgia Auburn game was nuts. All those different things.
Yeah, I mean, what's up, everybody? It's another great week to be with you, and on a Monday after a busy week where, a lot of stuff happened as you're trying to reference over there, and I mean, a lot for us to get to today, and plenty to talk about for 3 hours and plenty to have left over for the next few days. But James Franklin's gone from Penn State, as we'll talk about, and the coaching carousel is starting to get filled up. OU Texas coming up this weekend. Definitely didn't that game wasn't played this past weekend, right? Oh no, it was. Okay. Oh, that wasn't a bad dream. All right.
It was all too real, Craig.
I mean, I'm cool with it. Like I picked Texas going in. Y'all actually tried to talk me out of it on Friday to some extent, but I knew what I felt and didn't get the rest of my picks all correct. But that one, I just didn't have a lot of faith in Oklahoma. So we'll get into the hows and whats and whys and all of that, but. It was a really fun weekend, a bunch of big games, bunch of crazy results. UCLA is maybe the best team in the country all of a sudden. And Penn State's firing a coach who's won a bunch of games. And there's just typical college football chaos going on, as you love to see this time of year, as we start to get into the turning of the corner into like the cold weather months and these final few weeks, man. It's a fun time to be a college football fan for sure.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And let's just start with Texas and OU. Obviously, the biggest one around these here parts, but not the only big one. This was John Mateer's stat line. Now, I don't agree with the bottom part of this tweet, but no touchdowns, 20-38, 180 passing yards, 3 INTs, sacked 5 times. The two biggest runs he had both got called back by holding penalties that when I was watching it, I hoped that they were egregious. They were not. I mean, they were just straight up and down. He had a great run. And then it's like they showed the replay. And like as soon Herb Street was talking about it before they even showed the replay. They're going to get a hold here, which means that they saw it down in the booth or he saw it while it was going on the left tackle. And it's just the worst hold in the world. That was so obvious, but sometimes you got to make them to protect your quarterback. But I saw a lot of talk about, and I'm curious about your opinion about this, that Oklahoma spent the week trying to get Mateer back while Texas like not by their choice, got to spend the week in desperation mode and really preparing for the game, as where Oklahoma was trying to figure out who the quarterback was going to be. And that might have been a distinct advantage for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think it at worst took a lot of pressure off of Arch Manning. Yeah. I mean, how many people were talking about Arch Manning last week outside of he's got his mojo back and he's got his swagger from a couple weeks ago back and he's looking better. And I mean, like just the general kind of conversation you were having around Arch Manning was still occurring of is he going to be the guy we saw against Sam Houston? Is he going to be the guy who's struggled a little bit more at times? Like, who's he going to be? There was some of that because there had to be because he's a starting quarterback of one of the two teams in one of the biggest games of the weekend. But that was like 10% of the conversation, and the 90% was about John Mateer. Yeah. So whether you intentionally did this or not, as far as the kind of messaging going into the game, either way of how it was all planned and all executed, you basically took all of the pressure off of Texas quarterback in this game and put all of the pressure, not maybe all the pressure under your quarterback, but you put a lot more pressure on your quarterback's shoulders than the other guys by far, and it was self-inflicted. And so that part of it, I think you definitely question coming out of the weekend, and you go, was that really the best strategy? Now, if you thought he was going to play and it wasn't you, it was Sooner Scoop or it was, this outlet or that outlet that was pumping out the various reports, like that's one thing. But the whole will he, won't he consume the entire week? And then, the bottom line of it is it's not even so much for me a question of should he or shouldn't he have played on Saturday. He just didn't play good. I mean, regardless, if he should have or shouldn't have, he looked healthy enough to play. He looked unhealthy enough to maybe he could have sat out another week. But bottom line is he just didn't play well, and that hurt them tremendously in this game. So the guy that I thought would tip the scales one way or the other in their favor ends up playing and ends up tipping the scales out of their favor, if anything. So I don't know how many people saw that coming, but that's how it went. And I give Texas a lot of credit. Their defense was very, very good going into this game, and I feel like they lost a couple games, and all of a sudden people want to start acting like they're not still good or something for some reason. And because they had a tough game against Florida. And so I understand it to some extent, but they're still a very good defense. So they came in, they did their thing. They dictated the game, and then Texas broke off some big plays like the big return that basically sealed the deal. And they outplayed them, they outcoached them, and they won Red River. And so kudos to Texas. That was a massive, much-needed win, and their season stays alive, so to speak. Because of that win, rather than having 3 losses around your neck and basically feeling like everything's no longer in your control. Now you're still sort of in control if you're UT. And if you're Oklahoma, good news is it's the playoff era, so one loss doesn't kill you. But I think it would have been better, hindsight being 2020, if you would have just sat Mateer. Like, if you could have known, obviously, what was coming. But, like, you would have been better off just sitting Mateer, losing to Texas anyways, and have him get healthy for another week than have him go out there and try to be the guy that wins you the Texas game.
I would have had him, if he was ready to play-ish, I would have had him there if Hawkins was just disastrous.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, have him there and ready, but don't he's starting, he's back. Yeah,
but don't. I think they got a little caught up in the moment of this like Willis Reed out of the locker room kind of a thing with Mateer, which is human nature, like it is. But and look, Arch Manning had his best game of the year, but it was far from like statistically spectacular. He just cut down big time on the mistakes. The offensive line, especially in the run game, played way better. Quintravian Wisner, it's so hard for me to call him by his full name.
Yeah.
We spent a whole year just called him Trey. But Quintravian Wisner had such a good game that took a lot of pressure off of Arch. That wasn't happening earlier in the season, even in their wins. So the other thing I saw somebody say that, it looked a lot more like the Quinn Ewers offense than it did the early Arch Manning offense that they were trying. To let Arch maybe readjust, take some pressure off of him. It was a well-called game. The offensive line played a lot better. I still wouldn't go as far to say that problem is solved, but they did come together for a week in a big moment. They're still going to be vulnerable because people are still going to be able to look and pick at their weaknesses. But Steve Sarkisian, the Texas staff, all the way up and down, did what they had to do and kept the wheels from falling off. That first half was about as ugly a football game as you're going to see, and that happens a lot in OU Texas, where the emotions are so big that you just kind of get a field goal game for a little while. Or one team is so like, and this has happened more to Oklahoma recently than Texas, but Oklahoma's out of it for the first half and they get kind of, wobbly. And then once they kind of get their bearings and they have this like ridiculous comeback because they've got great players like Caleb Williams or Baker Mayfield or whatever. But that was kind of an old school classic Red River that if you put, both coaches and gave them some sodium pentothal in the arm and made him tell the truth, even the winning coach would be like, look, we won it. Like, we did a lot of good things. There are things I never want to see again. I'm glad we don't have to play Oklahoma and Dallas one more, or at least in the Cotton Bowl. Glad we don't have those two things happen all the time every year because that would be tough. And they're moving on. But, yeah, Texas came out. They did exactly what they had to do. It was not the sexiest game, but guess what? They didn't need that. They just needed a win. And I do think that people often get caught up in the narrative like, oh, well, they've lost 2 games, so they clearly suck now. Well, no, they're really good on defense. They're okay on offense. They're not as great as they were on offense, but they essentially have almost all new starters except for 2 or 3 guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they played well enough to win, and it was a big win. And I think one of the telling stats in this game was the lack of sacks on the part of Oklahoma. Got into the backfield quite a bit. I mean, 12 tackles for loss is pretty damn good, but just the 1 sack compared to the 5 sacks that Texas had in this game. So 5 sacks, 3 interceptions. I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to win many football games when you allow that to happen. And then when your quarterback is just in general not playing pretty well, when you can't run the football for anything. I mean, you ran it 30 times, so it wasn't for a lack of effort, but 48 yards. I mean, we know the run game's been a problem, but geez Louise. So not only did you not have anything to compliment John Mateer, but then it's on him, and then he's not playing well. Your defense can't disrupt Texas enough to tilt the balance or the scales all the way in the other direction. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I don't know about like any typical way these games have gone. They've gone like every way under the sun imaginable. Texas has come back in games. Oklahoma's come back in games. They played low-scoring games. They played high-scoring games. They played every sort of game that you can imagine. So I think this is just traditional Texas OU in that it didn't matter what the records were rolling in. It didn't matter what they'd played like rolling in. It was who was better that day, and Texas was the better team. And they got the huge win that now puts them on this different path than what was really in front of them heading into this one, and more of what they were expecting at the beginning of the year, with still this chance remaining so long as they don't slip up again. And then for Oklahoma, it's like, yeah, you had a little bit of breathing room to deal with, but I think now you're questioning a lot of things, because when the offseason was ongoing, I was excited about John Mateer. I thought it was a nice pickup for Oklahoma after Jackson Arnold left. But if there was one thing I was cautious about, it was like he's going to make some mistakes because he's trying to make plays. And if you watched him at Wazoo, then that's just part of the deal. Like, he doesn't have the best like future look. Like he's a react and kind of try to make something happen guy. And that works against some teams. That doesn't work against Texas, especially when you're not playing that well. It just compounds things. And so his errors compounded what was already not very good play. And it spelled disaster for OU. And so I commend him for trying to give it a go. But John Mateer, forget his health, had a bad game. Texas had a large part in why he had a bad game, and Texas outplayed and outcoached them in this game. So I think they feel great, and I think Oklahoma definitely goes, damn, like you look at the rest of that schedule and you're thinking, well, if we play that way, we got a bunch more losses on this schedule, but why, like, what do we do to improve? How does Mateer respond to that? How's he feeling? How do we try to get a run game going? Although it's week 7, so why would you suddenly have one? And so, yeah, there's a lot of questions now for Oklahoma, but the good news is for them, it's not season over. You're still in the heat of everything, the playoff, the SEC. That's all still in front of you, especially with the teams you've got ahead. But there's a real rocky road ahead for them, man.
That's true. The schedule is tough. And Mateer, look, for Oklahoma fans, you might be panicking and thinking like he lost it because of the injury. No, he looked like a guy who only practiced a little bit. That's what he looked like to me.
I mean, I don't even want to talk about the injury, really. I don't even want to use that as like a built-in excuse. Like, he didn't play very well.
No, because and he played so well early on. Guess what he did all those weeks? He practiced every single day. He was there. He was good on good and all those little things. These things matter a ton, especially at the quarterback position. You can probably throw a couple skill guys in there and just say, hey, go be athletic. And you can work around some of those things. If the same thing had happened to, say, Deion Burks, like, they can probably work some stuff in because, hey, we're just going to get you in the ball in space and go run. We'll worry about the exacting details as you get back from this injury. Quarterback's a lot different thing. It's a lot different thing all the way around. I think he'll be fine. I think that they'll be fine going forward. But, yeah, this was tough. And that's just, it is. Nobody's going undefeated anymore either. Like, that's just not going to happen all that often.
Not all that often, no. I think we've seen now with.
Or the standard should not be we're going undefeated or the season's bad. Not to say that nobody is. No, it's going to be harder, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul, anybody that's still thinking that way, what era are you living in? Like, how many more examples do you need to understand that that's not the way that it is? So I don't even think we need to reinforce that because it's obvious that's not the era that we live in anymore, and we're at least a couple years removed from that era. So, yeah, we need to reprogram our brains if everybody's still going, well, we're not going to go undefeated. Well, who gives a damn? It's fun to look at. It's cooler looking on the T-shirt when there's a big 0 and all of that. You aspire to still do that, but it's not as likely as it used to be, and it's okay. I know it's hard, though, when you've been programmed for decades of you got to go 13-0. You got to, at worst, you got 1 loss, and it's like that's not the era that we're in. Texas has 2 losses and they're still okay. Now, they don't have any more breathing room, but they have a whole extra game and change that they didn't have 10 years ago to worry about the postseason. So, yeah, Oklahoma's postseason is not over. UT's postseason is not over. It's not the end of the world. This isn't 1998. This isn't even 2017. You can lose a game and be okay. You can lose a couple games and be okay, especially if you're in the league these two play in. So, Oklahoma goes back to the drawing board, get Mateer healthy, let him shake it off and just be better about some of his decision-making in particular, and try to, just get back on the saddle and go beat South Carolina. But for Texas, that was much needed, I think, just for the fan base and for the team to have a little bit of positive there when there were so many questions lingering around them, and knowing what it would probably have felt like if they had lost a third game and it was to Oklahoma. Now that they have that out of the way, they've got some tough tests upcoming as well, but they got to feel like they've got a second life coming out of this weekend, because going in, you felt one way. Coming out of it, you feel an entirely different way. And it wasn't like they played just so incredible. You're like, wow, they're Ohio State. It's not that. It's just that was a big-ass win, man. That was a big old win for them. So sure beats the alternative, and these two teams live to fight again another day, and I don't think we'll see them rematch at any point in this season. It's possible, technically. I don't think we'll see that, but it was a compelling, if not ugly at times, Red River on Saturday.
They both have 1 conference loss.
Yeah.
Right? So the good news for both of them is right now they don't have to – technically right now, because there's undefeated teams, they don't have to – they have to wait around for somebody else to lose. But if you lose twice, you have to wait around for people to lose multiple times. You really have to have help. As long as you keep it, pretty tight and in within a game of everybody else, you're okay until you run out of games. So they're both still in the conference race. Texas, saved their season based on the goals they had of being the preseason number 1. We'll see if they get back there or not. But yeah, if they lost that game, that's a bust of a season, given that you started with everybody thinking you could win the national title. So there's that one. Another team that took their first loss, Oregon, at home to Indiana. Curt Cignetti, the hottest guy in coaching right now for multiple reasons. One of the worst programs in the Big Ten, if not the worst in Indiana. 70-2 there. Only teams who played the title game last year. Oregon, their first ever Big Ten regular season loss. And Curt Cignetti just dominating right now. Indiana is the story of stories because of where they've come out of, and that wasn't one of those fluky games either. That was Indiana controlled the game pretty much from beginning to end, and won 30-20. A fantastic win for the Hoosiers. Fernando Mendoza is really good. Oregon's still really good, but man, Indiana has just put everything in the right order there, and they just go and win games.
Yeah, it was an incredible victory for Curt Cignetti, who definitely can be somewhat abrasive, or maybe a guy that rubs you the wrong way from time to time, just to kind of depending on his comments, like the scheduling stuff a couple months ago. But I mean, beyond that, and every coach is, if they linger around long enough, they're going to say something at some point you disagree with. But he's a guy who is a disruptor, and in a kind of typical Big Ten that we're just become accustomed to over the last few years. It's refreshing. I mean, not to mention the teams that they've added, like in Oregon, that's even in the mix now. To see a Cignetti and an Oregon, it's definitely not your typical just Michigan, Ohio State talking points coming out of that league. It was just a kind of a fun little alternative that is still somewhat newish, and it's very new for me to try and realize how much respect I need to put on Indiana's name. I mean, Cignetti is one hell of a football coach. So to see what they did on Saturday, I was just I wasn't like shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. But I was pretty surprised by just how much they went in there and just kind of dictated things. And incredible win. Mendoza was a fantastic pickup this offseason. What's cool about the Indiana story is all of the James Madison connections that are constantly highlighted when you watch those games. But just to think of like how many people, from coaches to players, that never thought they'd have the opportunities that they're experiencing right now, like playing Big Ten football, beating top 3 teams at their place in Autzen. Like, that's just, who could have scripted something like that? But it's a very cool little subplot to the Indiana story that I know was highlighted last year as well, but there's still some remnants of that. And yeah, I mean, to go into Eugene, if this game had been in Bloomington, maybe I go the other direction. But the fact that it was out on the West Coast, I thought Oregon would handle their business. Said plenty of times last week that it felt like we had kind of a top tier that was forming, and Oregon was a part of that, along with a Miami and an Ohio State. And now you need to replace them with Indiana at worst. Or add Indiana to the group, or do whatever you want to do. But Indiana needs to be in the national championship conversation. They need to be in the Big Ten championship conversation. And Oregon, like Texas or like Oklahoma, is still okay. But that was definitely a punch on the chin that I don't know they were quite expecting from Indiana. Like, knew they respected them coming in, but again, they roll in and beat them in Eugene. And to be leading like the entire game, basically, like, I know that every moment I was watching, Indiana was in the lead. So yeah, hell of an entertaining game, surprising result for me, based on my pick, but shocking in the best type of way this weekend to see some of the results that we got. That was right there near the top of surprising, shocking, or just important types of victories. So yeah, I think Mendoza's got to be in the Heisman conversation a bit more. Indiana's obviously getting some love in the polls, and yeah, man, everything's in front of the Hoosiers now. I mean, they just got one big game out of the way, and they don't have a ton of challenges remaining in front of them. So they're sitting really pretty right now, and that was highly impressive stuff. Cignetti, again, I think kind of depending on the subject, maybe he can rub you the wrong way, but nothing but respect for him. He's a damn good ball coach, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, this was 2 unranked teams playing, but it led to the biggest story of the weekend. Penn State's college football playoff dreams are done. Drew Aller's college football career is over, and James Franklin's career at Penn State is over, all in one fell swoop, as they lose 22-21 to Northwestern on the weekend. I thought the clock was ticking loud after that UCLA loss last week, Craig, but when you go and lose to Northwestern, lose your starting quarterback in it, which does have anything to do with him getting fired, but it was just, I mean, look, Pat Kraft did not hire James Franklin, so he was going to be saddled with trying to fix James Franklin's trajectory. He's had nothing but success there, except for at the highest levels of it. They've won and won and won and won, just not to where Penn State wants to be. They need to get over the hump. And, you know, that was a tough loss for them. And Pat Kraft just made the decision. We'll talk about it more in our next segment about the coaching news, as far as especially who's going to take over. But from top 5 to coach fired in less than a month is pretty much modern college football in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the preseason polls have been getting attacked throughout this season, and the AP's taking a beating and whatnot. But this is another example of where people are throwing logs on that fire. This is supposed to be Penn State's year, right? It's supposed to be national title contender. This is supposed to be anything but firing James Franklin halfway through the year and losing to UCLA. And it's a story where I was hesitant about using words like shocking and all of that with what we were talking about previously, like Indiana beating Oregon. It's like that wasn't shocking. It was surprising. The way it unfolded was surprising, unexpected. This was shocking. Like, to think not necessarily that they did it based on what had just happened recently, but that if you had gone back even 2 weeks ago and said, hey, guess what? In 2 weeks, Penn State's firing James Franklin, we've been like, get out of here. The hell out of here. That's not happening. What are you basing that off of? There's no reason to believe that. That'd be stupid. Why would you do that? Well, watch what's about to happen. And yeah, man, this thing fell apart quickly. The carousel is filling up very fast as James Franklin now grabs one of the front row seats. But man, you go back, that Oregon loss was one thing, but to follow that up with the UCLA loss and then now this Northwestern loss, I mean, I understand where Penn State's coming from. And yeah, it's a big price tag, but 3 straight losses. You're 500 after being the offseason favorite besides Texas, according to most everybody that I read throughout this preseason. You had multiple Heisman candidates on your team, at least 1 or 2 that people talked about at great length this offseason. So to be in this place is, yeah, pretty incredible. What a huge job now opens up. And yeah, we will talk coaching carousel specifics in a separate segment coming up. But first of all, great for Northwestern, man. I mean, awesome moment for them to go into Happy Valley and get a win. I mean, historic stuff for former SMU quarterback Preston Stone, who got to be a part of that. Kamalafe, their running back, also a Texas kid as well from Katy. So he had the big score that was the deciding factor. So that was cool to see kind of a connection to where we are with that Northwestern team and a couple of their big offensive players. But yeah, man, it's just kind of, I keep wanting to take myself back to like a month ago and just, I wish I could time machine and go, hey, guess what y'all are going to be talking about a month from now? James Franklin, after Penn State's 3rd straight loss, including back-to-back to UCLA and Northwestern. I'm like, get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody would have bet that. Even our buddy who hates James Franklin, Zach Gelb, he would never have bet that. No way. And he's as big of a James Franklin hater as there is. And now he's got extra interest in this Penn State job, as we'll get to later on. But yeah, man, that was from just a college football fan point of view, that was incredible. That was awesome. It was everything you want these types of upsets to be. And then obviously for Penn State, it absolutely sucks to be where they are, but they're already off on their coaching search now. So they're preoccupied and they're done with this season for the most part. So they'll be fine ultimately. But yeah, man, that was jaw-dropping that Penn State lost again and did not see this one coming in any form or fashion. This wasn't Oregon. Even UCLA, you could say, oh, well, they're traveling to the West Coast and it's a winless team. Like, this is like the worst type of team to have to play. And okay, maybe you could have come up with some reason to think, okay, maybe so. There's no way you were thinking that about this game.
No, absolutely not. You think, okay, they're going to bounce back, but they did not. Bama and Mizzou was a really fun game as well, Craig. I really liked that one. I thought there were a couple moments where Mizzou was going to make Bama, sweat early on, but they really didn't. And that's a testament to what Kalen DeBoer, Ty Simpson, and the whole team has going for them right now. Is they don't, after that first week, they just don't sweat. They just don't sweat, and they just go out and execute. Jam Miller is going to be out though. He's in concussion protocol, so that was a tough loss for them after they just got him back to full speed, and that's going to hurt their running game. But they held on. Look, they have a tough go of it too. I mean, they're turning around with Tennessee this week, so it's not easy sledding. But Alabama just completely has flipped. They've done like the opposite of Penn State. They lost a big game early, and then now they've just put a lot of doubters to rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they had their work cut out for them, and they were able to squeeze a win out. So that's all that matters ultimately. Going up to Columbia, you knew it was going to be tough. You knew they had a really solid quarterback, really good running back, and just a solid team overall. It's an SEC game. It's a competitive team in the SEC. Like, there were some signs that this might be a turbulent trip, and in some ways it was on Saturday. But yeah, Bama emerges victorious again. Yet another ranked win for them, and that's 3 straight now with Georgia, Vandy, and Missouri. And now an opportunity to make it a month straight of top 20 wins with Tennessee coming up at home. That ought to be a hellacious game here on Saturday. So very much looking forward to that one, and it'll be a great showdown. But yeah, that Missouri game was very tough. Bama looked like, maybe they'd have an opportunity to pull away, but it was just kind of score for score all throughout that game. And Ty Simpson, solid. Pribula's a lot of fun to watch, man. He's a really good quarterback. That was a really nice pickup. Where was he before?
He was at Penn State.
Yeah, I bet he feels great, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Not about the loss, obviously, but I bet he feels pretty good about his choice now that James Franklin's no longer going to be the head coach moving forward. But, I thought Ty Simpson played really, really well, and Alabama's just a good, rock-solid team. You throw them definitely in that top tier of contenders at the moment. Those teams that have the best odds of getting those first-round buys or being – a semifinal championship type of team. I think they're in that handful. A shame about Jam Miller. He's having a pretty good game before that concussion. And from my hometown, from my high school, so wishing him the best. He's a really good player, but yeah, this year he just cannot seem to stay healthy.
No.
And if it's not a regular injury, it's a concussion. So hopefully he doesn't have any lingering effects from that, because that does affect everybody differently. But yeah, I thought this was a game where Alabama easily could have caved at some points or let things take over, and we're on the road and things get away from you, but they kept their cool, and just very impressed by how Kalen DeBoer and his team have fought out of that first week loss. Now, obviously we understand they didn't really lose to that great of a team. So it wasn't so that you almost think would taint it even more. But it was just one of those, you didn't know what to expect. It was the first game of the year, and it counts, but this is the Bama that was the real Bama, not the team we were talking about in week number 1 and pulling fire alarms over and panicking over. They've proven out since that game that they are still very much Alabama, and they're still very much a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah. By the way, on Penn State, retired stockbroker says, the super chat, thank you. UCLA was the nail and Northwestern was the hammer.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
So, yeah, absolutely. For him, I'm gonna go out of order a little bit on the games, because we were going to talk about FSU at the end, but because of the Alabama thing and how that has shifted, FSU looked like they had come back. Alabama. See, I can't even get it out. Alabama looked like they'd fallen apart. And really, that was just Mike Norvell's – it was just an orchestra that he had that day. The defense for Florida State that day against Alabama was legit. They were all over Ty Simpson. They were stuffing the running game. They were doing everything they were supposed to do. They made the big plays on offense. They've not stopped making big plays on offense, but the defense – they decided they were going to stop playing after Alabama, and that's been the case there. And now you've got Mike Norvell, who after week 1 thought he was off the hot seat, and the world thought okay, well, he's corrected it. Well, now he's squarely back on it because he can't win in conference.
Yeah, man. I don't know how many actual legit coaching candidates are out there right now. Who are all these teams going to hire?
You're going to people are going to
we need to get to it in a separate segment so that we don't cross over too much, but I mean, I just wonder, if you're Florida State, is it too late to fire him now? Because is there just too long of a line? Now, granted, you jump towards the front of that line. I don't know if you jump in front of Penn State, but I mean, you'd definitely be towards the front. You'd be ahead of Oklahoma State, with all due respect, and some others. But yeah, man, this is unraveled pretty quickly. And I'm sure there's some tweets and some trash talking that some random FSU fans did after that Alabama game of the whole we're back and, stuff it and everything like that. And now they've been hearing back from their friends these last few weeks going, remember that Alabama reaction that you had? And look, we were all guilty of overreacting to that game. It was week 1. That's what you do, especially when it's Alabama on the end of an upset and it's a big brand like Florida State, where it's not some, oh, well, that was lucky, right? Or that was, no, oh, well, Florida State did it. It must be good. It must be Florida State's back. And A lot of us were guilty of that, and as we've learned very quickly, Florida State's not that much better than they were last year. I mean, from a totality standpoint, and so. Yeah, man. I mean, you're the Florida State fan. I don't need to be the one talking about this game.
Okay.
How do you feel about it? Because my only thing is, it's just a really crowded line that's forming now for coaches. And I look around and I go, okay, John Sumrall and this guy and that guy. But there's no – I don't feel like just surefire things necessarily.
Look, Bobby Bowden and Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, those guys aren't coming to save you anymore. Yeah. And the thing is that – if you really want to, you're going to have to find the next Bobby Bowden who's a coach somewhere else who just hasn't hit his stride yet, if that's what you want to do. And
maybe you go up to Tampa or something.
Maybe it's Alex Golesh. Maybe it's John Sumrall. Maybe it's Jamie Chadwell because he's got that Bobby Bowden vibe about him.
Man, I'll tell you what, though, Liberty sucks.
Exactly.
Liberty's not very good.
Exactly. So, I don't know who it is. I don't know who you do. Plus, you got to pay a $50+ million buyout to him, which you can spread out over 8 years, but it's still $8 million that you're not going to have for something else, whether that's NIL, the next coaching staff, whatever that you have. The thing is that he's got to stop. Here's the thing. He's in a bad place right now, but he has every opportunity to get back to a good place. The biggest thing he has to do is stop the roller coaster. You can't win 3 and lose 3 and win 3 and lose 3. You can't do that anymore. You cannot do that. That's not the standard. You need to set the baseline of okay, well, this year probably this team isn't a national championship, a playoff team, but maybe not an ACC team, title team. But we could our baseline needs to be 8-4. 8-4, those are the teams that you lose players. You didn't, some of the guys aren't ready yet. You didn't hit big in the portal. All those things that go into it. They need a baseline. Right now, they don't have a baseline. If they were a patient in the hospital, they'd go from they were dead, then all of a sudden they're miraculously better to they're almost dead again to oh, look, they ticked up. And then now they're back on the way down. You just can't have that. And that's not just a Florida State thing. That's an everywhere thing. That's an absolutely everywhere thing. You cannot ride the roller coaster. You need to have some consistency. That's what he hasn't been able to rope in. And I don't think it's all completely his fault. There are other things at play, things that the athletic department as a whole had to dig out of when he took the job in the first place. However, when you have the thing is that all 3 teams, Miami did out physical them and out talent them a little bit, but ultimately they got out schemed by Miami. They got out schemed by Virginia, and they got out schemed by Pitt on defense. Gus Malzahn in the offense is not even close to a problem. Do I wish Tommy Castellanos was 3 or 4 inches taller? Yes, because that seems to be the weakness, is that the reason he's not really a prolific passer is, if he's in the pocket, you got to kind of have to that first or quick second read, or you're not really getting a whole lot out of him. But he's talented. He just is he's a B+ level quarterback at his best. He's not an A quarterback. That's fine. Plenty of people have won with B+ quarterbacks. Florida State won many games and played a national title games with guys like Thad Busby. It's not, you don't have to have Peyton Manning every year. You don't have to have a Heisman Trophy winner every year, but they need consistency, and that's what he hasn't brought. I'm really surprised that Tony White's defense isn't working. I don't think it's necessarily talent. I think it's maybe football IQ that they have a problem with over there on that side of the ball, because it's seemingly the same thing. They can't stop the quarterback, whether he's passing the ball or whether he decides to run it.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a quarterback. It was a brand new freshman quarterback that was balling on them.
I do think that guy's going to be a great story.
Yeah, his name's Mason Heinschel.
Yeah, Mason Heinschel.
And he had a really good game for Pitt, but he's a true freshman, and he just went and beat Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, he supplanted Eli Holstein as their starter.
Yeah.
This wasn't Eli Holstein got hurt, and this wasn't that. This wasn't that at all. This was he supplanted him because the coaches like Pat Narduzzi and the coaches said, look, this kid's got a little moxie, and we're going to put him in and see what happens. Had a great week last week, had a great week against FSU. But FSU has veterans over there that shouldn't let a true freshman absolutely dissect them like that happened. And it's because they couldn't get back to him. They couldn't change it. So when it comes to FSU, look, you've got 6 games. You pretty much have to win 5 of them, in my opinion, to to make everybody feel better. That doesn't mean that Norvell's going to get fired, but if they kind of ride a roller coaster, if they wind up 6-6 this year, which is where they're probably headed right now, then it's as good as over.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of teams that feel like they deserve to be like at least 10-2 every year. So on the whole thing about consistency, we're in this new era, and consistency, I think, is going to be very hard for most teams to come by.
I just think you need to have like
you don't ever miss bowl games type of consistency. I get that, but I think it
doesn't need to be 12-0 or barely not 12-0.
Right. Yeah.
It needs to be somewhere just a grade below that. But if you're putting the resources forth that a university like Florida State is, if you're going out in the world and trying to whip your ding dong out and tell you how awesome you are, you really can't. You can't be 3-3.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely some humble pie. You thought they got served that last year, and then you had this offseason where they got their way in the whole SEC thing, and it was back to, well, we're leaving you losers anyways, and screw you guys, and we'll be better this year. And that's not the entire FSU fan base, obviously. You weren't that way, but I saw plenty of like the same cast and character of people that, we'll wave to you from the Big Ten plane, that kind of thing. And it's like, all right, well, how about y'all actually do something in the meantime? Because last year you didn't do anything. Now, 2 years ago you did and got royally screwed over and never will believe otherwise. But, since that playoff conspiracy, that whole playoff debacle, whatever you want to refer to it as, things have been bad for Mike Norvell, and you thought that they were turning the corner at the beginning of this year. But, as the weeks have gone by, they're clearly pretty much who they were a year ago, slightly better, but not much more than that. And you had, Pitt 3 for 3 on fourth downs in this game, but like a lot of these things were pretty equal across the board. But Pitt was 3 for 3 on fourth downs. That proved to be huge. You sacked them 5 times, picked them off twice, but you did lose a fumble. But still, you won the turnover battle. You had, didn't have the fourth down. You didn't attempt a fourth down like they did. But so like there was little things that flipped their way that led to Pitt winning this game ultimately. But that was shocking to me. I was not anticipating Pitt winning this game, much less if you had said, oh yeah, and they're going to do it with a true freshman quarterback. I'd be like, okay. And they're going to do it in Tallahassee. Okay. And that all happened. So,
and here's the frustrating about the fourth downs. Every single one of them, it wasn't like they had like a 3rd and 2 and then it was a 4th and 1. Every single one of them was a 3rd and 13.
Yeah.
That then turned into a 4th and 1. And if you're Pat Narduzzi on the road, you're going like, well, hell, let's go for it. Like they just gave us up 12 yards on 3rd down. We got to get 1 now. Mm-hmm. We've already broken them. We already broke them by not getting off the field. So it's frustrating. I want to take a break. We have some time. We've got to scramble a little bit. Phil Bennett is at a funeral today and can't make the show. So we're going to figure that segment out. But we've got so much. Like we probably don't even need another guest. We got Dan Wetzel. We've got so much to talk about. We'll continue this on the games. I want to get your perspective on Georgia and Auburn, Craig. I think Auburn fans are struggling with 2 different realities, and they want to accept one or the other when they're both happening at one time. We'll talk about that game and much more, plus the coaching carousel, which is getting super, super full. This is 365 Sports.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries? From a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Yeah, car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul and Craig, Smokey, and our bosses are playing in a golf tournament right now. So here we are. So must be nice, Craig. Or
yeah,
not. I don't know if you don't like golf, but yeah.
I'd like to take a day off here pretty soon. I haven't had one in quite a while, and I would not mind. I don't play golf though, so today wasn't the day to do that. But it's also college football season, so I'm trying to be here for you every day, which I have been the entire time. And here we are once again with you on a Monday after a busy weekend.
All right. So a couple games we didn't get to. So UCLA is awesome now. They're just beating the crap out of people, Craig. Tim Skipper, Jerry Neuheisel, Nico Amaliava. Hey, everything's fine in Westwood now, right?
Who's Tim Skipper?
It's their actual head coach.
Oh, no, Jerry Neuheisel's their head coach, right?
Yeah.
Jerry Neuheisel's the guy I see on every graphic. Jerry Neuheisel's the guy that's like getting carried around on these graphics like he's the head coach. But no, yeah, shout out to Tim Skipper, the guy most people probably don't even know is the actual UCLA head coach, including myself, especially if you've only watched the coverage of them the last couple of weeks. Yeah, he's done a great job. Obviously don't know how to give credit and divvy that up to the proper people, but, start with the head coach there, and then obviously a ton goes to Jerry Neuheisel. Nico Iamaleava is looking like the guy that you went and got in this offseason to be a future NFL top pick type of quarterback. And there's just a belief there that I don't know what Deshaun Foster was or was not doing during his time in Westwood, but to see the change in that team over the last 3 weeks has been really cool in some ways, and also just really remarkable in other ways as well. And so maybe it's just a sign of what leadership can do for you when it's the right leadership, or maybe there's just a weird stretch of games they're hitting teams the right time. But no, it can't just be that, because these teams are, Penn State's still rolling in, still pretty good Penn State team. So it's the power of belief, the power of having the right people, man, that you can take a program that looked like it was dead in the water, that had already fired its head coach and is now sitting here winning games and crushing teams. And so it's been really cool. And all the UCLA takes from a few weeks ago are basically expired at this point, because that was a different team. That was a different program. What's going on now is a completely different thing from what the beginning looked like. So yeah, I think it's a really cool story. I'm super intrigued on where they end up, and I'm super intrigued by who eventually is the head coach. Does Tim Skipper have any chance at being the head coach for UCLA if they keep winning? Is Jerry Neuheisel going to get the job offer? I mean, based on the coverage of him, because Lord knows people love their stories, and Jerry Neuheisel gives them a good one. But this been remarkable, and was another one of those shocking type of results from this past weekend when there were some surprises. There was this and there was that, but UCLA suddenly going from unable to beat anybody and looking like a football team that didn't know, basically how to play football in some ways, or play a good brand of football, to now be where they are is awesome. And I thought Michigan State was a pretty good team, pretty okay team, but didn't really just give this game much thought last week. The UCLA had their moment. They're going to East Lansing. Like, Michigan State probably wins this game, and little did I know that we were in store for a treat, and not just that, but an absolute butt kicking in East Lansing this past weekend. So yeah, what a story.
Yeah, it's a great story. I hope that at least, I don't think that I think that UCLA needs to do kind of a top-down thing.
Sure.
I mean, look, Jerry Neuheisel will stay. He wants to be there really badly. That's his school. So if the new coach comes in and has some kind of connection to him and wants him to stay on the staff, if they can make that work, fine. But I do think that they need a top-down reorganization of how they care about football. And if that's Tim Skipper, then great. If he has the plan, he has the plan. But just making the interim the guy, I don't know if that's going to do it.
No, I doubt it. I think they're riding a little bit of a magic just because they changed things up, and they clearly desperately needed to do that. Something about Deshaun Foster, or just his coaching style or whatever, something was holding them back from being able to show what they're showing now. And part of that was just they have no restraints. I mean, they have an interim staff, so it's all about just going out there and doing whatever you can do each week to be competitive, but there's not much expected of you. And so they're being able to play free in a way that you wouldn't have if a guy's the actual head coach and there's all of a sudden you have to win this many games, or this is the expectation. They have none of that they're dealing with. So to think that it would just translate if they all got full-time jobs is foolish, but definitely is a great thing for Tim Skipper and Jerry Neuheisel's resumes, and for the talk about them. I think it's a very, very good thing what they've done over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. The Georgia and Auburn game turned on I don't want to say on a dime, on a call that took forever to review. Garrett, do you have the picture here? Okay. This is blurry, but this is before the ball came completely out. Now, you can make the argument that on this play that the ball might have been moving before then. That's what made it so hard to review. But this was, I don't know if this was a Georgia touchdown, an Auburn touchdown. It was one of those two things. It wound up not being either of those two things. But this is a call that was obviously controversial. Auburn fans lost their minds about it. It led to Auburn not scoring again in this game after they could have been up 17-0 on Georgia and really putting some heat on them. And then Georgia dominating the second half and then getting what was one of the worst officiated things I've ever seen happen in my life. Kirby Smart very clearly calling a timeout, realizing that he could fool the officials into saying I was clapping, and them saying, well, oh, oops, our bad. There was 1 second on the play clock. What was he clapping about? And then getting the play clock reset and started over so they don't have a penalty and they didn't have to burn that timeout, and they wind up going on and winning. But two things are happening at Auburn right now. They have the wrong coach for their program. Hugh Freeze is not the guy. It's just not working. Their offense isn't very good. Their defense is pretty good. Their offense isn't very good. He's not making their offensive players better. He's supposed to be an offensive guru. And the SEC and college football at large has an officiating issue that has, in 2 weeks, really, really screwed you over. But it's not some conspiracy against Auburn. It's just that you have two sucky things that collided.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily directed at Auburn, but I do think Georgia probably gets those calls more than most teams do. And there are enough questionable calls that are ongoing in college football each weekend that there are times where you definitely go, I definitely think the nationalization of officials is something that needs to be on the top of the to-do list. And I think especially now when there's more personal interest for conferences to raise up their best teams to get into the playoff, to make them that money, to get them those ratings and to do all of those things. So I'm not claiming that about this game or anything, but why would an SEC official do something against Auburn? Well, because Georgia's in line to make the play. I just think if you eliminate that entirely, where officials shouldn't have skin in the games, they're part of the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like the officials are working on behalf of the SEC and ultimately, hopefully doing what the SEC wants them to do. And so I don't think the SEC was out there going, we need to screw over Auburn so that Georgia wins. But it does make you wonder after you see call after call and you're like, wait a second. So the touchdown thing was one thing. Now Kirby's pretending he didn't call timeout and we're really going to let them get away with this shit? It was ridiculous, dude. And Kirby is a great football coach, but he's so full of it. I mean, he's just so utterly full of it when you watch him long enough. And I know that that's probably sacrilege to somebody in Athens, but it's you're not fooling me, pal. I see the BS meter, the meters going when you walk by, but that's most every college football coach to some degree. But that on Saturday night, I was like, give me an effing break, man.
Kirby Smart reminds me of the kind of guy who, when you're playing pickup ball in the neighborhood and you call a foul on him that he didn't like, then he will do the same thing and he'd be like, no, that's not a foul. And you're like, okay, fine, it's not a foul. And then you do it back to him. He's like, well, that was a foul. And you're like,
yeah, I mean, probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's the best comparison, but
right.
He could strike me as that type of a guy. But yeah, he's just a college football coach. So it's, hey, you're going to let me get away with this and I'm going to get away with this. But it felt so slimy watching him get away with it. And it wasn't his fault. It was the officials. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. And that was another egregious miss on the part of that officiating crew. So I think when you have an SEC crew or a Big Ten crew or whatever, I just think it would be better if it was nationalized, and you can still have guys from the same region, so there's not a bunch of egregious travel and everything. But I had that thought running through my head again on Saturday night, not just after this game, but after a few different games where I don't think it's in the best interest to have team referees. But I can see walking away from this game as an Auburn fan and being very pissed off, and it not being the first time you felt this way this year, obviously, and not just pissed off at the way you got screwed over on a couple of calls, if not more than a couple of calls, but also pissed off at just the way your team played in the second half and the fact that it's another marquee loss, and that, yes, this offensive guru of a head coach doesn't have a very good offense, which is at minimum what you would expect this team to be able to do well, and they're not doing it well at all. And they have very little run game, and Jackson Arnold's very hit or miss, and you posted a big fat goose egg in the second half. So for as much as you got kind of hurt by, or not kind of, but as much as you did get hurt by some calls, I mean, you didn't help yourself out either when you had multiple opportunities to do so. And look, some of that was taken away from you, but yeah, this is a game where I can understand walking away being a little bit upset about the officiating, but only if you're just as upset about the rest of it as well. And so I think you're right. Hugh Freeze and Auburn are going to have a reckoning coming up pretty soon if things continue this trajectory. I saw quite a few Auburn fans who are still supportive of him, think he's a good coach, but there's plenty that are starting to kind of pull their hair out a little bit. So here they are at 3-3. They're buried in the SEC. They have little to no shot now at this point to reach the title game at 0-3. And, it was one that got away because you were sitting there at halftime up 10-3, should have been up by more, but felt like you had this one in control, and then Georgia just dominated in that second half. So, brutal loss, and definitely got freeze on somewhat of warm seat watch at this moment. But really nice win for Georgia, albeit with a little bit of an assist here and there. And I just wish that officiating was better across the country, because I think we see far too many instances where there are obvious blown calls. And then we see, with replay of, and this is a completely separate thing, but I'm watching Brando the other night, and he is just laying into the officials for doing reviews for no reason. And it was during whatever game it was he was doing. I believe it was a Big 12 game. They were reviewing something that was very obvious. Instead of just doing the NFL thing where the booth's like, hey, it's clear, just keeping it all moving. They're like, no, let's stop down. Mm-hmm. Let's go grab the camera from the sidelines. Let's take a full commercial break. And even though we'd seen 30 replays and they all go, that's not what you think it is, the Big 12 decided they needed to stop the game. And officiating across the board and how they handle everything could be better. I'll say that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It all could be better. They need to do something about it. Nationalization of officials is I think the first step in the process.
I just think they've got too much.
Well, and the other thing is that I think if you do that, if you send a guy who's only done SEC games and a guy who's only done Big Ten or a crew who's done that into a different spot, it might be a little bit of a relief to them, because they're not like in the phase of like, oh, Here comes Logan and Andrew.
Yeah,
this crew throws holding calls on every little ticky-tack thing.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea when everybody's fighting, scratching, and clawing for conference this and conference that to have conference officials dictating a big game where it does make you side-eyed a little bit more. Before the playoff, you didn't so much if Georgia's got a benefit of the doubt call against Auburn. Yeah. When it's a team that has no chance in the postseason versus a team that needs this win, it makes me go, especially when it's super egregious. Like the bang Arnold and the replay, I thought it was a touchdown. It should have been a touchdown. Yeah. But if you want to try to say the ball was slightly moving, okay. The Kirby timeout thing was bullshit. Yes. I mean, that was BS, dude. Bullshit. So I just want to eliminate that kind of stuff from the game. And I know that you can't eliminate all that because you can't instant replay whether he called the timeout or not or whatever. But I don't like officials being a part of a team that has vested interest in the big picture, because I think that's where things can get sideways. And it's college football, so don't tell me that everybody's just, oh no, everybody's going to be cool. They'll never try and take advantage of. Just spare me. We've seen time and time again where that's not the case.
It's also human nature to not know that you're
exactly. Yeah,
you really don't. You kind of look. All the officials that didn't call fouls on Michael Jordan weren't going oh, this just looked cool.
Right.
It was. They're just sometimes you're kind of mesmerized.
But if those officials were the NBA Eastern Division officials,
from
and
Chicago.
Then you'd go, are they giving them? And I know this is an SEC game, so before anybody's like, well, they're both SEC teams. Yeah, but one of them's now got their third loss and is irrelevant, and the other one is in the heat of the top five, and so there is actually a reason. If there needed to be, I'm not saying there was on Saturday night, but it would be nice to just eliminate that from our thought process completely. So when there is a huge head scratching call, you're like, well, they just blew that. It's not, is that intentional or is that to try and help? I don't want to think that when I'm watching games. And unfortunately I think that far too often nowadays.
Yeah. Mix it up a little bit. Okay. We'll do some coaching news and then the break. Or do we need to take another one? Yeah, let's go ahead and do a break right here. When we come back, we'll do the coaching news, 4:30, Dan Wetzel. This is 365 Sports.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with Sikkim 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients that have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross, Andrew Valade, Wolverine. Our new intern is Wolverine. His name's Logan, so I think we should just call him Wolverine.
I would agree.
Yeah, Wolverine is here. I mean, he's got a beard. He's got kind of at least one iteration of Wolverine's haircut. He's got kind of that same thing. So, I mean, he's got blonde hair, so that maybe he looks more like Sabretooth.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to nerd all over this show for a second, but just a couple of quick notes. Dan Wetzel at 4:30. After Dan Wetzel, we'll recap the Big 12 weekend. Phil Bennett is at a funeral and won't be able to make it today. So that's a bummer because we always like talking to Phil. But we do have so much to talk about today that we figured we could fill the time just with me and Craig. So we hope you like us that much. So.
Well, I mean, I know that our audience can kind of talk about everything, but yeah, we'll get to what now sets up a massive holy war this weekend in Provo. And I think the conference pulling a classic Big 12 in that the bottom teams this week all jumped up and beat a lot of the top half teams. And so now we've just got the kind of chaos that you would expect and some teams that are now sinking and one that looks really, really good, but has a quarterback that can't seem to stay fully healthy all the time. So we'll get into all that here in a little while, but there's a lot going on in that league alone, much less nationally. But some of that has to do with coaching, as we'll get into right here.
Exactly. So James Franklin's fired. We talked about that. So he's out.
So that sets up.
Yeah. So that sets up. Many other jobs. There's going to be a domino effect because the candidates you're hearing right now are Matt Rule.
All right, let's stop there.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point in the day, every opinion's already been shared on social media. Yeah. So I've spent very little time on social media today, but I have looked around and seen enough to where I know I'm not coming out with some hot scorching sports opinion here, but if you fire James Franklin to hire Matt Rule, I don't know what in the F you are doing as an athletic director. I understand there's a connection there with Matt Rule and the AD at Penn State. He was a player there, but he has done nothing to prove that he should be the guy to come step in and fill the shoes of James Franklin, in my opinion. And I say this as a Matt Rule fan. I say this as somebody who covered him when he went from Temple to Baylor and watched him have to go through some of the most just stressful times in navigating the media circus that was surrounding the program, and then also trying to basically strip it down to build it back up and then do that. And then also every single season having, and non-Nebraska fans know this all too well, having constant coaching rumors surrounding him. So you never knew whether you could really like build the house or if you needed to like be a renter, right? To just be on the move for the Matt Rule following. So I say all that because we go back with Matt Rule like several years. He's on this show twice a year, if not 3-4 times a year. But at least a couple times a year he joins us. So I say that as a fan of the guy, as somebody, I wouldn't like say he's like my friend. I couldn't like just call him up and start small talking, but if we ran into each other, we'd dap each other up and have a good conversation and all of that. So I want him to do well. But when you tell me that you fired James Franklin just to turn around and hire Matt Rule, I am puzzled by that. So I'm going to have to believe that Penn State is sitting there with multiple options that we're maybe just not aware of all of them, because if that's like their top option, I'm just very confused by the entire situation.
Yeah, I'll say that, like, now I do consider Matt a friend, but I think I know him a little bit better, just because I spent some more time. But yeah, I mean, like, I think he's a great coach. I also think he's in the right spot that he needs to be right now, because if you hire Matt Rule, bottom line is he and James Franklin are the same kind of coach. Now, Matt Rule's personality is probably a little bit easier to deal with, but
for sure.
But all coaches have their things. But the critique on James Franklin is that he has not won the big games. Well, Matt Rule is 2-23 against the AP top 25. So you're not solving that problem necessarily by bringing him in. Now, would he win those games at Penn State? Maybe. But you're sending a guy who won 10 games a year out the door. You don't need a maybe, you need a yes. Like, this guy can win those big games, and this guy's going to be different and get you over the hump. Now, he and Pat Kraft go back to Temple. They have an outstanding relationship together. Matt and Troy Dannon have a good relationship at Nebraska. So, I mean, we don't know where this is headed. This is the one job that I would think that would make him look up from Nebraska and go, because, again, he loves Penn State. He grew up loving Penn State. He went to Penn State. He walked on there. He's got skin in the game with that school in his life. But I personally think that, one, Penn State should leave that be, and that Nebraska and he are in a good spot right now. They're 5-1. Like, they won a close game this week. They did all these things. He needs to keep that going. He needs to they play Ohio State again this year, right? He needs to try and win that game before he goes and tries to start winning big games at other schools.
Yeah, he's 5-1. Nice win over Cincinnati, there to start the year, and they've gotten off to a good start. But it was 3 weeks ago when he was an under 500 head coach at Nebraska.
Yeah.
So in this winning that they've done, he's now 2 games above 500 at Nebraska. So he's done a good job there, but I don't know. I think he's going to get another pay raise, which he's got a great agent. Right. And
USC's their next big one. But
okay, well, yeah. I think he'll get another pay bump, which his agents just got to love the amount of times that he's been mentioned for jobs over the years, and all the constant contractual upgrades that he's probably gotten as a result of that. So here's another one for him, most likely at worst, or it's another move. I mean, yeah, alum, played football there. I get why it makes sense. I'm not convinced that you made a better move by firing James Franklin to bring in Matt Rule. I don't know that makes you. I don't think it makes you automatically better. I don't think it guarantees that you'll be any better. I think it's just as good of a chance you could be worse. Now, you could say that that's every coaching hire out there, and that's true. So, look, if Matt Rule were to take that job, I'd wish him well, and I would imagine that he finally has to be at his dream job, unless it's the New York Giants. But, I mean, the guy gets mentioned for jobs more than any coach I've ever seen in my entire life, and he has that a propensity for kind of bouncing around, whether by choice or not. So would it be shocking to see him uproot and leave Lincoln for familiar Penn State? No. But I do think that he's got a really good situation in Lincoln, like you said. So I would assume he's going to stay there, but you never know with these types of things. So he is the interesting name right now, but I was expecting a lot more when that firing is announced. I was expecting to hear some bigger names. And the moment it was Matt Rhule's the leading candidate, I was like, well, that's just almost too predictable, right? Like, that's just too predictable, but it makes sense for all the reasons you mentioned. So, yeah, Penn State and Matt Rhule is one to keep an eye on, but they've had less than 48 hours since the firing. So we'll see who else gets attached to that carousel rumor mill and who all they interview. But I would be really underwhelmed if I was a Penn State fan, unless I'm just a huge, we want our guys coaching our guys. Like, if you're that person, then yeah, Matt Rhule's awesome. But if you're somebody who's like, show me the results and show me why this is an upgrade, or this is the guy to get Penn State over the hump, I don't see reason to believe that right now, as much as I'm a fan of Matt Rhule.
Yeah, true. Okay, Curt Cignetti in Indiana is going to be thrown out there and has a lot.
I would hire him, and that would be a splash. That would be a big splash for Penn State. Yeah.
No, I look, he's winning in Indiana. No, look, he may want to stay in Indiana. That's his program. That's his now. Like,
right. And we should say that Matt Rhule, when he was
asked
about the job, he didn't say no.
He didn't say no when he was asked about jobs here.
Right.
That's not what he does.
No, because he's smart enough to know that his agent will go get him a pay raise at minimum. Yeah. And so, let everybody speculate and let you be the most attractive girl in town or whatever, right? The one that everybody's what are they going to do next? And enjoy that, I suppose. But I do think you have to be careful with how you handle that, man, because what if Penn State decides to go a different direction, or you start to lose games there at the end of the year, and then people wonder, well, is it because you're involved in this coaching search and all of that? But again, it's not something he's not used to. He's been involved in coaching rumor mills for most of his career now at this point. Mm-hmm. But he didn't deny it. He didn't say outright, like, no, I will be at Nebraska. So didn't necessarily expect him to, because that's typical coach speak protocol, but that was certainly interesting for the Nebraska fans, hoping they were going to tune in and hear him like stomping that out entirely. That was not the case at all.
Yeah, no. It wasn't.
All.
No. And look, Matt Rhule, he was, well, we went through it here when he was here. We asked him
every year.
We said
every offseason.
And look, we sat in New Orleans I remember at the hotel we were staying at, and he came and sat down with us, and he said, look, I'll tell you exactly what I told the team. And, because it was NFL jobs at that point. So, it doesn't benefit him to go up and go, oh, no. He gets to, like, all of it can be true. Like, look, I love Penn State. I love Nebraska. I mean, I'm not going to comment on the jobs as they come open. It doesn't do me any good. Like, the only people it helps are, like us for knowing. Like,
and who cares about us?
And then it could come back and sting him, and he's like, no. Like, you don't have to just blatantly lie. Like, you can just be like, look, these are how these things work.
Well, no, he clearly didn't. He said, I love Penn State. It's my alma mater. He said it in front of everybody, so he's not shying away from it or pretending like that storyline is not something to look at and wonder about. So for him, it's good position to be in, where you're in a great spot. And there also might be another great spot that you love more than anything that could be interested as well. So we'll see how that goes, but that's just one sliver of the Penn State search and the overall coaching carousel to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So Curt Cignetti, there's other guys that may fit. Like they'll see the top 5 on it today. I threw Brian Kelly's name out there just because I think he's a better fit there than he is at LSU, and there's some tension there. And he, if he could skedaddle on up to Penn State, then, LSU gets to hire somebody, everybody's kind of made whole. And that's if I think Curt Cignetti is going to be their top choice.
He would be my top choice.
Yeah.
He would absolutely be my top choice. If I had any skin in the game up in Happy Valley, that's the number one name on my list, unless there's just somebody who makes a lot more sense. But as far as like proven, he's way more proven than Matt Rhule. Mm-hmm. Way more proven than Matt Rhule at this point. So, yeah, if you're just giving me those two, give me him. Brian Kelly, I don't know exactly how people would be receptive, or how receptive people would be to his name. He's a bit of a lightning rod, but Garrett would probably be happy to pack his bags and send him out of Baton Rouge.
Please take him.
Please take him. Yeah, so I don't think LSU's totally in love with him at this point. So maybe it would be time for him to pick up and go take another job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that would, because Brian Kelly also, though, hasn't done a lot of the things that James Franklin has also not done. He's won some bigger games in season, but he still, hasn't coached a team to a national championship. So, and you're not going to go get like Dabo or something like that.
Well, that's the thing is like when you put that as your benchmark of like, well, they need to be super above 500 against top 25 teams. Well, good luck finding a bunch of guys that have those records because like they're all at Georgia and Alabama and those schools already. Yeah. And if anything, you are maybe equal footing or a step down. So there's not going to be a lot of guys that fit that bill exactly. So
you got to find somebody on their way up.
Yeah.
And Kurt Signetti's on his way up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's on his way up right now. Oregon State fired Trent Bray. They're 0-7. This is, like, to me, one of the most interesting coaching jobs just because, I mean, like, or just a situation, not maybe the job out there, but they're essentially in a new conference with an old name. And, the pool changes a little bit on who they're probably going to be able to pick from. But there are coaches from that region, I think, that are really good fits that are at maybe the FCS level right now that would be really good fits at Oregon State. I think Nick Rolovich, who was at Wazoo, is a really good fit, to jump back into it. But 0-7 at Oregon State, and, they've kind of like to hire their own, which Trent Bray is one of their own, but I do think they maybe need to branch out a little bit.
I don't have any clue where they begin to look, but I definitely saw some of the FCS bump ups that could be potentially guys they look at and bring in. And I think with their hand dealt the last couple of years, it's just been a really rocky road. But even still, you didn't see the horrific start they've gotten off to coming. Maybe didn't think Trent Bray was the right choice or whatever, but I don't blame them at all for just go ahead and cutting their losses and saying, we got to make a move because we're already trying to stay as firmly as we can in this particular place. And outside forces are pushing us down, down. We're fighting with all we can. The last thing we can afford is to have an 0-7 football team that nobody cares about. Like, you just cannot have that happen right now. So, with no signs it was going to get any better, they made the right call in my estimation. Go ahead and just admit, this was the bad choice. And hey, good luck to you, but we gotta go do what's best for us and get a guy in here who can get us back on track, because you can ill afford to keep sliding the way that they were when you're already, without even playing any games, kind of sliding out of the conversation to some degree. So that one, not as maybe high profile as Penn State, obviously, but I think a really good job, and I think a really passionate fan base, and I think a really intriguing league that you'll be playing in here very soon, and a lot of questions about commitment and just kind of where they are in the pecking order and how the new Pac-12 is looked at and things like that. But that definitely will have plenty of interested candidates, and only way to go when that job is up with the 0-7 start, that's for sure.
Yeah, and another coach was fired yesterday, Trent Dilfer at UAB. This one lasted a little bit longer than I thought it would. Alex Mortensen, who is the son of the late Chris Mortensen, named interim head coach there. That will be interesting to see some of the guys who maybe try to get back in, like the Ed Orgerons of the world, or like Neil Brown would be a good one for that job for sure. Or some of the maybe young and upcomers that might pop up and get the UAB job.
Yeah, I think this was somewhat expected, maybe not like this week when it happened, but I mean, given the start that they were off to and just his tenure overall, was not all that surprising to see UAB cut their losses, and don't know what they do moving forward, but a program that loves its football obviously has had a very roller coaster ride with the football program over the last decade plus, but I think that they'll have plenty of candidates. I don't know who exactly would be on that list. I have not gone and checked the UAB hot list if there is one out there. I'm sure there is, but
I have.
Okay,
great. I have, and it is names like Neil Brown and Ed Orgeron.
Well, I figure you weren't just picking those out of thin air.
No,
it'll be a job that is definitely wanted by some guys, and I think they'll have some name guys that they can go after, and there might be some up and comers that we're not thinking of that'll be a part of that. But I think they'll have a good mix of people to choose from, and I think there's maybe no other town in America that loves its football as much as Birmingham, Alabama does. So that's a nice starting point for whoever does take that job, is that you'll have the support there. But yeah, I mean, Dilfer, just one of those guys who, it was a nice thought, but it just didn't work. And I talk about a guy can rub you the wrong way a little bit, and then he's losing on top of that. Like, I could see where he's like, yeah, we got to make a move here. So yeah, they just didn't play well enough, and go ahead and throw your hat in the ring and get your coaching search started if you're the Blazers.
Yeah, I think look, Craig, I did look at UAB. I did a top 5 about UAB candidates. It'll be Thursday's top 5. And so I did a lot of research on it because I didn't want to just say guys I think would fit. I wanted to know what people in the know. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not that damn good at it. So went around looking to a lot of different sources, Football Scoop, and some of the national guys, local guys that have written about it, and we'll see. I mean, it's one of the better G6 jobs I think that's out there potentially because of it can help you lead to other places. You got a great recruiting base. You mentioned Birmingham is just a town that loves college football. Like, it's a good place to be.
And they were good before he got there.
Yeah.
Like, they were on a positive trajectory before he took over. So the last 3 years have been bad, and they sunk a bit. And so can you win at least 9 games in 3 seasons? Then you are on track to best Trent Dilfer. So yeah, you gotta win games, and that's the name of it, no matter how big your name is. Nice try, I guess, to make some waves and make some noise and get a coach with a name. And we've seen various attempts at doing that. Mm-hmm. Some have worked, some have not. Bill Belichick, by the way, still has a job, and he's come out today and flat out said that all the stuff going on is untrue, that he's not trying to get out of the North Carolina job for what it's worth. I'll just throw that into the mix while we're talking about these things, that he's there, he's committed, they're going to turn it around. It's just maybe taking a little bit longer than they expected. But he doubled down that he's not trying to get out of that job despite what others have said. So I say that because it's an update, but also because we've seen name hires like Trent Dilfer, Bill Belichick, or Deion Sanders, or various ones, and some have worked and some haven't, and this is one that didn't in UAB's case.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, yeah. Next, and I think that that he might not be trying to get out, but I think North Carolina has not necessarily.
Yeah, that's
a
different story.
That might be him, but
if I was a North Carolina alum that had money and had skin in the game, I sure as hell would be wanting to know how quickly we're making a change and what change we're making. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not looked good, and it's been very arrogant. Okay, next jobs open: Wisconsin and Florida. You think?
Those seem to be the ones that have the best shot at it. I mean, there's little to nothing of substance coming out of Madison, Wisconsin right now, as far as I've seen, at least. Maybe if you're on the Badger message boards, there's still some hope about Luke Fickell, but they seem kind of irrelevant at the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the more dangerous terms that you could label a program with, especially in this day and age. Now, Wisconsin, big picture, they're fine, but they are kind of irrelevant in the college football landscape right now, and that's not typically been the case for them most of my life. So not expecting them to be banging the door down to a national championship all the time, but to be like the 10th team that you rattle off when you're naming Big Ten teams these days, as far as the good ones go, that's problematic. So yeah, it seems like they'll be right behind. And what was the other one that you mentioned? Wisconsin and Florida. Yeah, and Florida. Yeah, I mean, that still seems like it's probably tracking that way. It's until people stop talking about it. I mean, the guy wins and they're still talking about him getting fired. The guy loses, they're talking about him getting fired. So yeah, at some point you see all these other jobs like Penn State fires James Franklin. There's Florida fans in the comments of like, why won't Scott Strickland do something? So yeah, I'd assume that Billy Napier's got to be one of the next couple up if it happens.
And they fired Dan Mullen for a lot less than Billy Napier.
I mean, that one's just been a constant for like a year now. So yeah, that goes almost without saying. But yeah, I would think that that's on the verge. But then again, like just every week keeps going by. We're still talking about Billy Napier in Gainesville.
When we come back, Dan Wetzel, ESPN. This is 365 Sports.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
SoftwareDeals.com is here for one reason: to partner with IT professionals and provide them with fantastic software and licensing at ridiculously low prices. We don't have the overhead of a multinational, publicly traded tycoon corporation. We can afford to give those savings to you and your buyers. We know the struggles of small businesses and what it takes to stay afloat in a competitive marketplace.
A leader within the industry, Respawn fuses more than 75 years of ergonomic expertise with gaming culture to create best-in-class chairs. We believe that comfort and performance should be inclusively designed into every gaming chair we create, which is why we're immersed in the gaming community. Respawn is for every gamer. Our products are for professionals and casual players and everyone in between. We don't just make good-looking gear, we bring experience. Visit respawnproducts.com today and find your chair for the next great adventure.
At Prime Putt, we obsessed over every little detail, working with experts to innovate something as simple as a putting mat. We focused on the things that mattered most to golfers: wanting to lower their scores, perfect feedback, developing good form, lifetime durability. Prime Putt is a mat that will perform perfectly and last forever. PrimePutt.com.
What do you want? What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it. This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Dan Wetzel of ESPN joins us now. And Dan, the coaching carousel is getting very full. Top 5 to fired in 3 weeks is a wild thing, but it's the most, modern era college football thing that can possibly happen. What are your thoughts about James Franklin, Penn State, and how that came to such a gigantic crash?
Well, I think you're right in calling it like a modern era thing, because I think you have two different elements here. One is that the sport is more competitive than ever. The really good teams aren't as good, and the really bad teams aren't as bad. And so when Penn State lost 2 weeks ago to an 0-4 UCLA team, I'm not excusing the loss for Penn State or saying it wasn't a bad loss, but it's an 0-4 team with Nico Iamaleava at quarterback, who's a guy who will probably play in the NFL and might be very good in the NFL. And so you don't really traditionally have a lot of 0-4 teams with NFL quarterbacks at the helm, a guy that talented and experienced. So it's kind of a sign that anything can kind of happen on any day. And now you've seen UCLA go out and beat a Michigan State team. They've rallied their season, and they're looking pretty good. And the same thing last Saturday when Penn State loses to Northwestern. Yeah, the helmet is Northwestern, the brand is Northwestern, but they've got a bunch of really good players on that Northwestern team. They're 4-2. They're not a bad team. So the days of like a Penn State just saying, look, we have all these good recruits, we have so much more talent than you, we're just going to win, is kind of over. Yet at the same time, you have an impatience in that you have boosters that spend a lot of money on the players Penn State does have and on the coordinators and are doling out a lot of money. they're not going to have a lot of patience, and they have an expectation of success and winning it all because they put their money where their mouth is. And so you put those two things together, and all of a sudden you have a team with a 3-game losing streak, and you're just saying, hey, we got to fire this guy.
Dan, I used to think that because of the playoff and the way things were set up, that it would be damn near impossible for a team from the Big 12 or a non-Miami FSU type of ACC team to go through the grind of the playoff. But now kind of seeing what you're talking about where things are a lot more even. I know it's one thing to beat a good team and then have to beat like 5 good teams, but are you more open to the idea that a Texas Tech can go on a run and win a national title than maybe you were a year or two ago?
Yeah, I am. And I'm not necessarily saying that about this year's Tech team, but maybe. I think they certainly can win games. They certainly can get a bye too. It's a really good football team, and I certainly think Indiana can do it. You don't have to be at one of these schools that you used to have to be. It's just totally different now. It helps to be at Ohio State. It helps to be at Georgia and Alabama, but you don't have to. If your school's aligned, if you get the right guys out of the portal, you get the right coach. This is about what team do you have this week and what game plan do you have. Look, it's a lot easier to win the World Series if you're managing the New York Yankees. But you know what? The Milwaukee Brewers are a lot better than the New York Yankees. I'd rather have that roster. So it's a little like that in pro sports. It's not that there aren't advantages, but you take a look at this Texas Tech team and the way they built and the way they spent money and the way they have done a great job of identifying the guys that are ready to play and being judicious with their decisions and the way Joey McGuire can coach them. Yeah, why not? They certainly can get into the deal where they only need to beat 3 teams. And they can probably go head to head with just about everyone. Now, look, maybe it's a Miami or Ohio State. We're just, one of those teams is going to roll everybody and, oh, well, but it's a wide open sport now. This is a different sport than 2022. It's a different sport than 2019. It's sure as heck a lot different than 2014. And because of that, I find the sport a lot more interesting and exciting. All sorts of different things can happen, but just whatever you were 50 years ago, it doesn't matter. Whatever you were 10 years ago doesn't matter. It's what you are week in, week out. And that's what's changed everything here.
Dan, what did you think about Oklahoma's decision to kind of force John Mateer back in the lineup and maybe get a little too excited about him getting back, as opposed to maybe preparing for a team in Texas that they could have, put him in the grave for 2025 had they won the game?
Yeah, I don't know how that whole decision went down. My guess is it's pretty hard to keep John Mateer of Little Elm, Texas, from getting into that Texas-Oklahoma game that he probably spent his whole life wishing he could play in, and potentially this is his only chance. So I'm sure he wanted to be in. I don't, obviously it didn't work out. He was not great, and Arch was a lot better of a quarterback on Saturday, which wouldn't be what we maybe were expecting going in. But Red River's crazy. There's always something happening in that game. There's always a special team score. There's always heroes that come out of nowhere. This was Oklahoma's chance to really stomp on Texas, though. And I don't have a dog in the fight, but my guess is every loss or every victory, every loss in that series is regretted, mourned. But this one might be one that you regret a little bit more because they really had Texas where they wanted them, and they could have ended that season.
Dan, in terms of people coming into programs that aren't traditionally known for being pretty good and turning them into the talk of the town, where does Curt Cignetti and his run with Indiana these last couple of years kind of rank up there? And how nervous should Hoosiers fans be with a job opening like Penn State inside the conference?
Well, I can put it this way. How many times in the history of Waco Sports Radio did we discuss Indiana, right?
Yeah, like less than a handful, that's for sure. Yeah.
not a lot of discussions of Indiana football out there. What he's done is amazing, and it's part of it is just the way he talks. I mean, he came in that introductory press conference, and of course, he says, "Google me, and I'm a winner," and all. He also called out Michigan and Ohio State in that press conference, and it was like comical at the time. It wasn't so much that you're not allowed to do it, but it was just fun that it was like, okay, this guy's like throwing the gauntlet down and saying, hey, we're gonna beat these guys, and I kind of liked it. Why not? Hey, you're there. You're not just there to go 7-5 and try to collect the check. It's like, I'm here to win the Big Ten, and I'm here to beat Ohio State. Well, right away, he's 16-2. This is a school that averaged 4 wins a year for 33 years. Over a 30-year period, they averaged 4 wins. He's 16-2. His 2 losses are at Ohio State, at Notre Dame. What they did Saturday at Oregon, to me, was the most impressive feat yet. They soundly defeated Oregon. And I think Oregon is a very good team and is going to be a playoff team and could still win the national title or whatever. Like, this is an excellent team, and you went up there, and it's hard to win there. It's a long trip, all of that. There was a pick six. There was a long touchdown, both by Oregon. Other than that, this would have been a 20-point game. They were better in the lines. They were better controlling the game. They did everything better than Oregon, other than those 2 plays. And they could win the national title this year. Again, we'll see. Miami, Ohio State, I think both look tremendous. There's a lot of good teams out there, but why not Indiana? And that's the most amazing thing about Curt Cignetti. Does he leave for Penn State? I don't think he does, for a couple reasons. There's simply a practical matter in that Indiana's going to be in the playoff, and they may not play until middle of December, like, the 19th of December, I think, is the first round of the playoffs. Like, can Penn State go wait them out into January? Cignetti is not a guy. This guy, if you've ever spoken to him, like, he is focused solely on winning. Like, he's not gonna do this where he's taking a job. He's got one foot out the door. He didn't wait to be 64 years old, finally be coaching with a team this good and be worrying about going to his next job or his next payout. That's just not him. So I think practice, a practical matter, I don't see how the calendar works. I also just don't think he has to go. Going back to what we just said, I think you can win a title in a lot of places, and certainly any Big Ten or SEC program that is invested and has the funds and has the will to win. There's schools that it's better to be at Ohio State. It might be better to be at Michigan than Indiana, but Indiana's not where you can't do it. It's not what it used to be. I just think this is a whole new sport, and everyone needs to look at it that way and kind of forget the ideas of, like, for 50 years we worried about the coaching transfer portal, right? You get to Indiana, you do well, you got to get out of there. Now with the player transfer portal, you don't. It's a different transfer portal, and I like that.
What do you do if you are Penn State? I mean, Matt Rule's out there. He's an alum. He and Pat Kraft did it at Temple. They have a great relationship. But if you're moving on because one coach can't win the big game, well, Matt hasn't done that yet either. So right. What do you maybe find someone who's maybe slightly less known but appears to be on a quicker upward trajectory, a younger guy maybe?
My guess is Matt Rule would be their number one choice, and maybe a Matt Campbell at Iowa State or something like that. I think Matt Rule is going to be their number one choice. I do think, otherwise you're looking and going at a route, and I think this is kind of interesting, is do you want guys with more game experience, or we've seen a lot of success from some of these guys coming out of Division II, Division III, right? Kalen DeBoer is one, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. Brian Kelly at Notre Dame won a couple titles at Division II. Like, as this becomes more about how well do you coach week in, week out, is that more of a skill set than, like being the face of a program? And I don't quite know how to say it, but like you consider James Franklin, right? He's a really good guy, and it seems like a really good guy, and really good recruiter. And hey, I'm going to get good recruits, and we're going to run a good program, and we're going to develop good players, and you'd want to send your son here, and all of those things. He checked every one of those boxes. But when it came down to, can you win a game when you don't have more talent? Can you get your guys up in a fourth quarter against a really good team? That's where he lacked. And so, you wonder if you start looking for that other aspect. But that's hard to identify. So I think for Penn State, that's a big question. They got some time to think it over. But what do you go with? I think they'll look to a Matt Rule and not really worry about what his record is in close games.
Dan, before we go, just wanted to ask you kind of a general Big 12 question. With Holy War coming up this weekend, a top 25 matchup there in Provo ought to be a good game. Tech's obviously rolling, as we talked about earlier. Cincinnati's looking okay. Arizona State's blown a tire, but your thoughts on the big Holy War matchup, if at all, and just kind of the league in general, what stands out to you at this halfway point?
Well, I think Tech is I'm really interested to see, because I think Utah's a very good team, and Tech handled them. What does BYU do? I think if I'm looking and saying there's one team that can stand toe-to-toe with Texas Tech the rest of the way, it's BYU. But this weekend we'll know more on whether they're up for that challenge or not. And I say that with that understanding of any given Saturday at this point. But I think Tech has certainly separated itself so far to where he's saying, all right, this is generally a league. We used to joke every point spread's 2.5, 3.5, everything's a pick 'em. And you've gotten some of that. Colorado beat Iowa State the other day. But I think that Holy War game, I think whether BYU can handle the physicality of Utah the way Texas Tech did in the trenches, that's going to tell me an awful lot. Otherwise, it's the same fun league it always is. And, anybody can kind of do something. You can get a little spurt going. You can get something going. And so that's been the fun part to me of the Big 12, as it usually is.
Dan, a big picture question, and and thank you so much for hopping on today. There is private capital coming into the Big 12, from this California pension fund. Private equity is going to start popping up all over the place. Schools can go get their own. They're begging Congress for money. They're paying buyouts of $50 million. How tight of a rope do they have to walk to make sure that people don't get really fed up with? Because here's the thing: they're going to take this money from wherever that capital comes from. They need Congress's help, but they're still going to turn and ask not just the big boosters, but run-of-the-mill fans for more and more and more and more, and maybe not offer as much in return over and over and over again.
Dude, let's preach, man. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, it's my issue is everyone's begging for money and protection and all this stuff, and no one ever talks about how they're going to control spending.
Yeah.
That's I don't want to turn this into a political discussion. We got a government shutdown stuff, but I'm just, it's just this private capital. We're going to give this. Sounds like getting one credit card to pay off the last credit card. And, that isn't really how it works, guys. That isn't how it works. And, I need congressional help, and I need to go private capital, and I need your money, and you got to pay for the Peacock to get this game. And, we're going to give James Franklin $49 million to not coach. Well, who the heck gave him the contract in the first place? What are we doing? Everybody wants money, and you go, and the stadiums are nicer, and it's not even just that. It's every sport on the campus. The facilities are incredible, and we have to do this. And, man, I know why you're broke. I know why you need the money. And it isn't because I didn't pay enough to watch your games, or it's frustrating. It's a little frustrating. I'd like to see, if you're going to sit there and say, well, we need to expand the leagues because we need more money. Okay, now we have an 18 team. Well, our league's too big, so we got to expand the playoff so that we can handle the And, well, who told you to have an 18-team league? Who told you to have, I was watching, I happened to cross the Big Ten network the other day, and they had Rutgers playing UCLA in a men's soccer game in LA. And, I just sat there and said, yeah, you need private capital when the Rutgers soccer team could be bustling to play Seton Hall 20 minutes. Like what's going on? Like, why do we need all this stuff? There's no talk of spending controls or common sense scheduling, or maybe we have an 18-team football league, but we don't have it in all our other sports because it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the kids on the Rutgers or UCLA soccer team that they spend all these days traveling around the country. They're not going pro in that. They need to be in class, or the parents can't see. None of this makes sense, and it's the same thing for Baylor or anybody else, right? There's plenty of schools you can play all these other sports against each other. Let's get over it and have more reason. I'd love to see somebody address that instead of just saying we need more money. We're broke. We can't do this. We need to call our senator and all that stuff, and we need to have ads on the TV and this act and that act. It's not just a funding problem; it's a spending problem, but we can solve that problem another day.
Yeah, it does seem like all these decisions are made after a night in Vegas, where they just wake up and be like, Oregon's in the Big Ten now? All right. I don't know. When does that happen?
It's like, so you take the Big Ten, okay, and it's affected Baylor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten said, well, you know what? We need more money, so we got to add Rutgers and Maryland because it'll help. We can get the Big Ten network on a basic cable bundle in New Jersey and Maryland and charge every person in Maryland and New Jersey money for this television network, whether they care or not to watch college sports, right? We're going to get 40 cents out of every house. All right, well, now people are cutting all the bundle, the Big Ten networks. Now, all right, well, you know what we got to do? We got to add UCLA and USC. Oh, well, why we got to do? Well, we need more money. Okay, now we got to add Oregon and Washington because that's not going to get us enough. Now we blew up the Pac-12. So now there's all this instability, and now the Big 12's got to have these teams all over the place. They were minding their own business, going fine, but everyone's getting bigger. Well, now we got an 18-team league. We don't have enough money to go around. Now we got to go to private capital. That's what's going to do it. Yeah. Like each time they're telling us that's what's going to do it. And it's like, I got teenagers. Like I've never heard this story. Don't worry, it's just private. It's not even private capital. It's private. It's going to be a passive. Well, what's the next thing going to be?
Yeah.
Well, we got to expand. We got to expand March Madness because we don't have enough money because we're doing all March Madness. March Madness is perfect. Stop. No one wants a 76-team college basketball tournament. Nobody's asking for these things. But we have to do them because you made 14 other bad decisions. And as a fan, you're just like, I'm good with most of this stuff. But at some point, you got to be like, enough, man, enough.
Yep, absolutely. Dan Wetzel, ESPN. Dan, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Rant's over. Thank you for the rant. Thank you. That actually helped me. You guys are my therapist.
Thank you, Dan. Anytime, buddy. Anytime. Dan Wetzel, ESPN with us. Always love talking to Dan, one of the smartest guys in the business. But yeah, it just seems more and more. That's why I saved that one to the end to get to let him have his rant. But I mean, I agree with everything. Like eventually, you're going to get tapped out. You're just going to get tapped out. And then you're going to have, I think the thing that slows down first is probably attendance because it already has, because I can watch 5 games at a time on my glorious TV and I don't have to, park and stuff.
Ask Baylor how the media press box looks lately. As far as we got a little taste of it, it's like, yeah, why am I going to go put all that effort into a game if I'm somebody who's paying the money to do all that? Like we got a little taste of just being able to take a break and not do it. And we're not even paying to go to the games, much less people who are traveling in from 3-4 hours out and then spending all day long in the heat and then having to drive back or get a hotel room. And like all that comes with that is like, if you can swing it, great. But a lot of people save up for trips like that. And now they just sort of realize like, maybe I'm better off spending that money elsewhere. And maybe instead I have to spend that money on NIL now for my team. But yeah, you can only go to the well so many times, you would think is the point, and do that before people either start to lose interest or they just simply don't have any more. And I think we've seen part of a losing interest, and I think we've seen people just are at their their maximum of the ability to get back. Like, it's like, I already gave you for the indoor and I gave you for this, and now you've raised ticket prices, and now my tailgating costs this much. And now, and so, yeah, you just keep asking and asking and asking. I know at the bigger places, there will be this feeling of like the ATM never runs out, but that's just not realistic in most places. And I think it's especially not realistic to think that even at the big places, that won't be a problem for some of them come sooner rather than later. So, yeah, I think the conference realignment stuff was interesting to talk about. We were obviously right in the thick of things. But I see people getting all excited about another round of it, and I understand why, because maybe you think your team will be better off, but ultimately, like, what are we talking about when we're talking about 24-team leagues? Mm-hmm. This isn't the Big Ten, like the way you grew up watching the Big Ten. This is double the number of teams almost, and it's like half of it wasn't even there to begin with. And that's what we're dealing with some of these, except for the SEC. I mean, they're the only one that has not, like, really gone outside of itself. But the Big Ten, once they went to the West Coast, man, that was stepping out of their comfort zone. SEC hasn't done that. They've just added contiguous states. So even with this next round, they could still very well just do that again with North Carolina, for example. But, yeah, at what point does the league get so big that it's not even a league worth cheering for necessarily, or a schedule based on how many teams are in the league, that you're just like, I don't even want season tickets anymore. I don't want to see Rutgers. I don't want to see Maryland. I don't want to see Michigan State. I wanted to see Oregon but I wanted to see Arizona State, and I wanted to see Utah, and like all that. Like, if you're a West Coast person, right, that you grew up. And so I think fans are just getting pulled in so many different directions, and none of it's like what they've ever really known. And so you're just kind of going along with it. But the moment that the noise stops for a second and everybody like suddenly has a moment to pause and like think about it, is when everybody's going to go, what the hell are we doing? And we've already had some of that, but like, it's never slowed down enough to really disrupt it. It's just, and that's why it's just constantly every week, even when the season starts, what's the first report that comes out? The Big Ten's looking to like get private capital, or they're looking to expand, or they're looking to cut a TV deal, or they're whatever. It's like always this business. And there is interest in the business, but man, that is not the main interest of the majority of people out there. And they're getting so preoccupied with the money part that I do think it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way and turning some people away. Now, somebody will inevitably go, well, look at the TV ratings. They're better than ever. Well, I mean, that very well may be true. Maybe college football is better than it's ever been as far as a TV product goes, but it doesn't mean it's better than it's ever been as a sport. And it really depends on who you talk to these days on whether it's better or worse than they liked it growing up.
Well, here's the thing interesting to your point on the TV thing. So part of the reason they did this was because they wanted to create better TV games, so that, because like in the Big Ten, when you do have Rutgers and UCLA playing, you're not going to get a big TV number on that. Even if they're both kind of good, you'd still like that one. But guess what? When you have Penn State and Oregon, you're going to get the biggest or second biggest. So when you have one of those games every week, if you're always in the top 2 or 3 games, then it's going to happen. Well, Indiana now shows you that you'll get better TV games if the teams in it are both good. Like, that's what really makes it good. Yeah. And so because of NIL and the transfer portal and the way that the talent has balanced out, you didn't really need to expand this way to do this. You just needed to change your own stupid arcane rules that were holding you back.
But part of the reason why you got the money you have is because you've also promised to bring in these teams too,
exactly.
Though. Like, so you got a bigger TV deal because you say, well, now we have Los Angeles, and now we have Seattle, and now we have Portland, or whatever the hell. So yeah, it's been a weird last few years, but always good to have Dan on and to get his uncensored opinion on all things college football, including the things that drive him nuts. So yeah, always great to talk with him. And he's one of my favorite people that cover college football as far as the stuff I enjoy listening and reading to, listening to and reading. So that's always a treat. But yeah, it is funny kind of seeing him break down the logic of the Big Ten and like how all of that worked in practice and now where we find ourselves. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, Craig and I recap the Big 12, then the top 5 in the Carnival. This is 365 Sports.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Have you heard of the new IRA? The new IRA Insurance Retirement Advantage is the solution for high-income individuals and business owners who want to grow and protect their wealth without locking up capital or taking unnecessary risks. The new IRA Insurance Retirement Advantage is an option you need to know more about and is only available exclusively from North Star Funding Partners at northstarfundingpartners.com.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
This is Richard Carr, and it's hard to believe, but 2025 marks our 26th year in the car business. I want to thank you for your support over the last 26 years. As a locally owned business, our customers in Central Texas community are also friends and neighbors. If you haven't been by lately, I invite you to come in and experience our amazing lineup of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac vehicles. Our goal is to make you feel like more than just a customer, but as a valued neighbor. Let us show you why we are people you can count on at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Welcome back, Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak. 365 Sports. And the Big 12 weekend was an interesting one, as it always is. And the Big 12, Craig, at Big 12 this week, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it did to some degree.
Yeah.
It definitely had a few games out there that the favorite did not emerge victorious, and I think I made a comment about this last Thursday when we were picking some of these games. We were all rolling with the favorites based on what we knew at this point, but I kept saying, well, we're all picking the favorites. Like, surely this won't go wrong, and I think I made that comment or something along those lines 2 or 3 times because that's not how it goes typically. And I do think there was starting to be, as of last week, this sort of divide of the upper teams and the lower teams. And just when you thought that might be the case, the bottom half jumped up and took a big chunk out of the top half this past weekend. So that was interesting to see, or just some of these games kind of go the opposite direction of maybe the way you thought that they would. So yeah, it was a fun weekend, and I know we haven't touched on the rankings or anything, but I'll just mention those real quick because it'll lead us into talking a bit about what just happened, but also what's ahead. And so if you're looking at it from a Big 12 perspective, Texas Tech's all the way up to number 7 now, up a couple of spots. And here you go. Yeah, Ohio State, Miami, Indiana, all the way up to number 3, A&M up to number 4 now, and Ole Miss dropping a spot to round out the top 5, but Alabama's emerging. Texas Tech's right there on their heels as well. But Tech, the highest ranked team there at number 7. And then you've got BYU heading into this Holy War game at number 15, a close win that we'll get to. And then you've got Utah there at 23 and Cincinnati at 24. So there you go. Utah lose this weekend. You're right back out again. Cincinnati, the moment you lose, you're out of this thing.
Also, one spot ahead of a team that beat them, but still.
Yeah. Nebraska beat Cincinnati, so go figure on that one. But yeah, Texas back in this thing, and we're kind of doing the big picture stuff now. But it sets up a nice BYU-Utah 15 versus 23 for this weekend. So the top 25, not all that affected by this weekend's results. You didn't have anybody outside of Arizona State. Arizona State and Iowa State. So, yeah, you were affected. I'm thinking of another point I was trying to make. So you were affected by the rankings, Arizona State and Iowa State dropping from them. So let's talk about – that's what I was trying to get to. Let's talk about how that happened and why the rankings are the way they are this week for the Big 12.
Yeah. Which game do you want to start with, Craig? Tech?
We can go any direction, but go ahead and start with Texas Tech, I suppose. Another win for Tech and another game that went by pretty easily for them without too much stress or concern about the outcome of that game against Kansas as they got up huge in the first quarter. Kansas started off that game as poorly as you could have drawn up. So the opposite of what Lance Leipold intended. And I think the key for teams against Tech this year is to not get overwhelmed early on. But the moment you dig yourself an 18-point hole in the first quarter alone, well, then you suddenly, and Kansas, to their credit, dig out of that hole. But that's not the design of an upset. The design is to not be in the hole and then to stay competitive throughout all four quarters. But, yeah, Tech got off to a huge barrage there. Obviously, Baron Morton gets hurt. And the reports are now that he is day-to-day Texas Tech's quarterback who left his third game in 7 games, I believe, now with an injury. And I know it's at least 2, but I believe that was the third time that's happened to him now this year. But it's not a serious injury. So Baron Morton, it turns out, is the most how would I put this? The most hurt but not severely injured player in all of America, apparently, that he keeps leaving games with injury, but they're blowing teams out, so it's not that big of a deal. And this one, it could have definitely mattered, but it didn't end up mattering in the end. K-State with a nice rally there in the second half, but it was in the second quarter, but it was all Texas Tech in the second half. Will Hammond did his thing. Their defense is really, really good. And I just think KU just got off to the complete wrong start, couldn't run the football, and that's going to be the case for a lot of teams playing Texas Tech in the Big 12. So Texas Tech remains a buzzsaw. Baron Morton remains a will he, won't he remain healthy player, but it's looking good as of Monday. And just more time for Will Hammond to get some snaps, which I know a lot of people in that fan base love because they feel like he's the better player maybe now and certainly in the future.
I think long-term he has more potential than Baron Morton.
I could go with that.
Yeah. Now, short-term, I can tell you that he's not because if he was, he'd be starting. But every week without the injury situation.
Yeah, I think there's some respect with having an older player, but when you've got national championship hopes on the line, you're going to play the best player. So I think they think that Baron Morton's the best player.
Yeah, look, there's no playing the long game.
No.
No.
Even if Cody Campbell does this every year, you can't just keep kicking the can down the road. So if you feel like this year when you've bought this defensive line that you're not going to be able to necessarily replicate every single year, that this is your shot, this is your crack, because if anything, everybody's going to start playing up to your level, not being further in the distance. But, so I think they think that Baron Morton's the dude, and that's why he keeps rolling out there. But it is concerning that he's having to keep leaving games, even though the injuries don't appear to be that serious. But that was kind of the knock this offseason, and we had people push back. Well, he's only missed this many games. It's like, but, dude, he's left 3 games alone this year. So they've been on the right side, I think, of the injury luck for the most part. That's also what needs to happen when you're having a championship-type season. So outside of a Quentin Joyner, for example, I think they've remained relatively healthy despite these scares over Morton. But the thing is, you feel great about the backup, though, if you do have to go that direction, because Will Hammond's played a lot of football now. But really the story of this game was Kansas is digging themselves a hole, turnovers early on, not able to run the football. But Texas Tech did run the football. They ran the football very, very well. Cameron Dickey having an absolutely massive career-high game. And I just mentioned Quentin Joyner. You wondered how they were going to react to that, and they've had no problem whatsoever with Cameron Dickey as well as Jacoby Williams being a part of picking up the slack there, in particular those two guys. But a massive day for Dickey, and yeah, Tech stopped the run and they ran the ball really well, and there were other facets to this game, but when you're doing that, you're going to win a lot of football games. And with their defense, their D-line, they're able to do that against most teams. And with their offense right now, they are zooming. I think one of the things that they had, and we need to move on, I know, but the combination of the talent they brought in, but also I don't think we've mentioned enough of having brand new coordinators. Like that can work against you, but it all can also work for you because everybody's like trying to catch up to what these guys do. So the fact you add whole new schemes and coordinators and all these new talented players, I think it's just too much for a lot of people to be able to handle right now. So that's an advantage they definitely have as well.
And credit to their players
for
being able to, because again, when you bring in new coordinators and new play, like essentially they're on the same page as the guys who came in from wherever they came from, right? So you bring in a new defensive coordinator. Well, the guy who was Jacob Rodriguez, Romello Height, they're on the same page learning Shieldwood's defense.
Right, yeah.
Baron Morton, he's there, whatever transfer wide receiver you want to talk about, or tight end, Carter, they're all on the same page learning how Mac Leftwich is doing it too. So for their capacity to ingest that over the months and then do this, which has been excellent, is amazing.
Yeah, no, I just think if you see Shieldwood 5 years from now, he might have even better players, and that's the plan if you're Tech. But I think that Big 12 coaches will know how to at least attack him 5 years from now versus now when it's like brand new offense, brand new defense, 5-star players galore. It's just a lot for teams to have to handle, and nobody's been able to handle it. But yeah, the run game was the story of the game for Texas Tech. Nearly 300 freaking yards on the ground, and they only threw it 14 times.
That was just from Cameron Dickey. I mean, he went 263.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, nearly 300 from Cameron Dickey, nearly 400 as a team. Yes, that's what I was trying. Yeah, he had 263, so nearly 300 by his lonesome, nearly 400 as a club, and then they limited Kansas to less than 100. And they only threw the ball 14 times because they didn't have to throw the ball. They just ran the ball the entire time because they were having such great success with it. And then you have Morton getting hurt and all that. But good win for Tech. Brutal loss for Kansas from the standpoint of you got blown out. You hope to be more competitive. You know you didn't give yourself a chance early on. And that really was the story. You couldn't run the football. And you turned the ball over one more time than you needed to give yourself a real chance in this game. And you probably could have lost a couple more turnovers if the ball bounces a little bit differently for you on the fumbles.
Yep, absolutely. These next two games set up the big one for this week in the Holy War. BYU, double overtime again. Look, it's never like clean, but it works. At BYU, they're going to have their things. LJ Martin was pretty dominant, 162 yards. But look, outside of some turnovers, a turnover for Noah Fafita. Look, Arizona, they're just fine. They're okay. They're a tough out, and took them down obviously into overtime where BYU, I think, just being better. But Bear Bachmeier threw 2 picks. I mean, it wasn't pretty.
Let's be clear. Arizona didn't take BYU into overtime. BYU took Arizona into overtime.
Yeah.
I thought Arizona completely puckered up at the end of this game. I thought Arizona was in control of this game, got down early in the game, but it was still it was a close game, but got down a little bit early. Thought, okay, how do they respond to this? And they responded really, really well in the middle portion. And then I felt like I had the tiger by the tail in the fourth quarter, and instead of going and getting that one more score and being aggressive, I thought that Brent Brennan just kind of puckered up, and he didn't look that way. He was on the sidelines clapping, but, dude, you go back and watch that broadcast. Brent Brennan, in like the last several minutes of that game, you simultaneously see where Arizona's got a chance to close the door, and you see where time after time after time they failed to do that. And you see on the other side when they're showing Kalani Sitake, the inability to try and go win this game, and then just little life reft here and a little life reft here. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, God, we got a chance. And next thing you know, he knows they're going into overtime. Like, I think he's convinced they're going to win this game now because they should have lost in regulation. But Arizona did not drive the dagger in. I thought they played it conservative. I thought that they played a little scared. And that would piss me off as an Arizona fan, because I think that's one of those games you go balls to the wall and you bury them if you got a chance to. And instead, they tried to kind of almost play with their lead. And it's like, dude, you are not going to be able to – it's like you were up 14 points. You were up a score. So despite Bear Bachmeier having a couple mistakes that could have proved costly enough to lose this game and not having the greatest statistical game, they're just fight to stay in their just ability to stay in the fight aided BYU well, because when they got that opportunity to go and tie it up and then send it into extras at the end of the game, they were able to follow through on that. And so I looked at this as a great effort by BYU and a nice win, and they're bowl eligible. They're 3-0 in the league. All that's good. LJ Martin was fantastic. But I walked away from this just feeling worse about Arizona and them letting this get away than I did feeling like great about BYU. Not that it has to be one or the other, but yeah, I thought Arizona let this one slip away. That was my big thought from this game. And BYU's a good team, and Holy War ought to be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that end, Arizona State got some bad news on Thursday night. Sam Leavitt didn't play. Their backup quarterback is Jeff Sims, who, to his credit in this game, didn't turn the ball over at all,
dude.
But
that doesn't tell the whole tale.
That's about where I can go, because he was in his previous career the human turnover. He did not turn the ball over. He also didn't really do anything well. So at least he didn't turn the ball over is the best I can say about Jeff Sims' performance the other night.
Arizona State without Sam Leavitt is nowhere near the same. That was one thing I want to talk about. Brent Brennan, with just the end of the game, he's sitting there cheering, and his guys are walking by during these timeouts, and they are as lifeless as you've ever seen anybody. You would not think they're in a game where they're like got a top 25 team at their place on the ropes. You would have thought that they were on the receiving end of being blown out like 60-0. It was the clapping drove me nuts at the end. I didn't feel like Arizona was the team in control. It felt like they were very much just playing scared. So anyways, that was my follow-up thought to finish that out. And Arizona's a good team. They'll be fine. They'll win some more games, but that one was regrettable. Utah just ran all over Arizona State. I mean, Arizona State without Leavitt, yeah, Sims didn't turn the ball over, but he wasn't particularly good. And it was just very much a slaughter for an Arizona State team that did not have its spirit, did not have its quarterback, and kind of the writing was on the wall in this one pretty quickly of what the end result was going to be. So yeah, Utah dominates, didn't throw it but 13 times, because kind of like the Texas Tech thing, they didn't have to. They just ran the ball constantly. So 42 carries for 276 and 6 touchdowns on that Arizona State defense. Sam Leavitt didn't play defense, by the way. So that's one of the worst performances that you've seen in the Kenny Dillingham era. We knew their pride was wounded a little bit, but even that was probably a little bit more than you expected as far as the beatdown meter goes. So Arizona State, no word on when Leavitt's coming back, man. They got Texas Tech right around the corner now, but without him there, they could not throw the way they typically do. Like, this could cost Jordan Tyson like a Blitnikoff award.
Yeah,
if he misses a couple more games. So, yeah, just really unfortunate that happened. Would love to have seen that game with Leavitt healthy. Utah probably still wins based on what we saw, but that was not your typical Arizona State team in any form or fashion.
And with the prospect of Sam Leavitt not playing again this week, which is likely, 11.5-point dogs right now at home to Texas Tech. Not that they wouldn't have been underdogs anyway, but they wouldn't have been double-digit underdogs.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, and the way they're getting turnovers, especially early on in games and kind of setting the tone, I mean, I'm sure they're licking their chops at the prospects of facing Jeff Sims, even if he didn't turn it over last week. I mean, they're going to be able to get in the backfield. They're going to be able to make him have happy feet, and they're going to probably force into some errors. So, yeah, it's like the Utah-Arizona State game. It's just it's a much different animal when you're talking the Sun Devils with Leavitt at quarterback versus without. And so I would not be surprised to see a similar results as opposed to a game that I thought had like national implications a couple weeks ago. That quarterback injury has really taken a lot of wind out of the sails, in my opinion. Doesn't mean they can't play hard, but got to play way better than they did the other night, because that was no bueno.
And it is just the kind of indicator that, of all the resources that you can, go to, quarterback is the hardest one to to really have somebody who is reliable enough. And they've got some younger guys there, but they're clearly not ready to go that route yet. Even with Sam Levitt out and them knowing what Jeff Sims is as a player. The biggest upset of the week, obviously, is Colorado beating Iowa State. Iowa State in the last 2 weeks just, obviously they got a lot of injuries. They're down to like having a lineman kick for them, and all these things. That's all troublesome and problematic. But outside of that, offensively, they don't look like themselves at all. They're sluggish, and I'm throwing all that on Iowa State. A fantastic coaching job by Deion Sanders and staff to jump out in this game and then get the lead, lose it at half, come back and head into the fourth quarter with the lead and play solid defense throughout.
I mean, Iowa State put up like 400 plus yards of offense, so I don't think the offense was like down or anything. But yeah, Rocco Beck did not play a very sharp game. He was less than or close to like 50% completion percentage, had a pick, didn't have a touchdown. So yeah, that wasn't good if that's what you want to refer to. But they churned out a lot of yards on the ground, and also a healthy amount in the pass game. But Iowa State just feels like they got a hole in the tire now, and they're not slowly, but pretty quickly leaking air. And you go from having kind of this breathing room at the top of the standings because you started a little bit earlier with that K-State game to now looking around and feeling like you're flailing a little bit. That's the sense that I got from Iowa State, where now you're 2-2 in the league. But yeah, Abu Sama ran the ball really well for them, had a massive game, but give credit to Dion and company. Thought Caden Salter played a sharp game, got about base average as you would want to out of your running game, especially for a Colorado team. And there was not, there was a big fourth quarter controversial call in this game that I know that Matt Campbell wasn't happy about, but Matt Campbell not being happy with officials or Iowa State fans bitching about calls costing them games is nothing new, nor anything new for most fan bases. But I'll just say in general, without breaking it down, that I was very impressed by Colorado, and I made mention to them last week that I'd called them a bad team a couple weeks ago. But that I didn't necessarily feel that way last week when talking about them in the Mojo rankings, and that they do have some talent and they do have some ability to win some games. They're just losing a lot of close games, and they were able to win this one, and that was huge. They needed it in a bad way. So crowd rushed the field. Cool moment for them, and don't think it changes like the big picture outlook for Colorado, but they really needed that one, and that was nice to see for the Buffaloes.
I think to me it was more of a testament to what the coaching staff is,
or empty yards or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, like I do, like, and look, they muscled up, and like you can give up yards, a lot of yards. I think yards is kind of a deceiving stat now. I want to know, do you give up? What happens in the red zone? Do you give up big plays? You give up points? How many can you stop that? And they did that the other night. So
yeah, I mean, they had a turnover on downs and an interception that were very, very costly. So that ultimately was part of the upset factor for Iowa State. But yeah, that was a great win for Colorado.
Yep. Cincinnati tops UCF 20-11. That UCF defense is a little further along than I thought it would be. They played tough. Since I don't think this game was ever really in much doubt, in my opinion, as far as Cincinnati winning it goes. But UCF continues to be a little bit further ahead than I thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing confident football. I definitely feel like they let one get away in this game and had a good opportunity, but got to clean some things up offensively. And I feel like that'll be something that in due time, Scott Frost gets more of his guys in there, and they'll have their ducks in a row in year 2, year 3 moving on. But yeah, I feel like Cincinnati is just maybe that team this year that's going to win these close games and continue to hover above in the top part of the rankings. Tough for UCF to have another game where you feel like you're getting close, but you lose nevertheless. So now 3 straight losses for them. You're starting to kind of sink a little bit. And I think that's where you're concerned. But yeah, I think there's plenty to like about UCF, and that Cincy remains like that kind of dark horse team that most people weren't talking about, but they are very beatable.
Yep. Houston absolutely rolls Oklahoma State. I'm not I don't know how much you want to talk about that one in particular.
I mean, Wegman played well, but I think that's just going to be pretty much everybody versus Oklahoma State. But it was a nice bounce back for them after the loss. And I think that Houston's a scrappy team with a really good defense that'll give a lot of teams some issues. Just won't be like Texas Tech. They're not explosive enough for a team like that. But I think they are, especially if Wegman plays the way that he played, they are explosive enough to play with just about everybody else in the league. You just don't want to get into a shootout with Baylor, or you don't want to get into a shootout with Tech because that's not going to play in your favor. But all the rest of these teams, I think that you feel pretty good about your chances against them if you're Houston.
Yep. And finally, TCU. Craig, you had said like they were giving you the blahs, about their.
I just said I didn't think that they were as good as people were touting them to be.
Yeah.
I felt like at the beginning of the year they were rightfully among the contenders, and for first couple games certainly felt that way. But just watching more of them, the lack of a running game, their defense is fine. But it's pretty much Josh Hoover or bust for that offense, and especially Josh Hoover to Eric McAllister, and those two connected a bunch more this weekend, but that wasn't enough. And so, yeah, TCU falls to the wayside, and I think you can go ahead and dock them a spot in the tiers if you haven't already done that. I had already done that personally, but really interesting matchup with Houston coming up. I think that could possibly be interesting, but this isn't about TCU. This is about credit to K-State for probably putting it all together, playing a great game. Avery Johnson looked really solid. Joe Jackson able to get you some yards on the ground, and I think that K-State just played more of their brand of football. It was a no score going into the second quarter, and then it was just an explosion after that by the Wildcats. So I think that that was them getting their mojo back a little bit, and maybe riding the ship in the right way. I'm not going to go and think that they go reel off win after win after win after this, but I do think you feel a hell of a lot better about the Kansas game coming up, and you feel a hell of a lot better about well, maybe not Texas Tech. We'll see when we get there in a couple of weeks, but I think you feel a hell of a lot better about KU coming up this next couple of weeks. So they'll have a week to prepare for that, and then the big Sunflower Showdown. But I know that 2 weeks ago, most K-State fans were like, we're going to get our ass kicked by Kansas in this game. I don't think you feel that way after Saturday.
No, I think after the last 2 Saturdays, I did see our buddy John Kurt said, watching this game makes me angrier about last week's game.
Well, yeah.
Especially given the fact that had you not lost that one and then won this one again, you're looking at a kind of a completely different outlook on the rest of them.
Yeah, you would.
You
would be sitting there at what are they now? Here it is. You'd be like 3-1 in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'd be in and you'd be 4-3 overall. So yeah, if you don't let that Baylor game get away from you, then you're still in contention really. And now you're still in a little bit of a hole. It's not one you can't climb out of, but that was just a really feel good win for Kansas State that they desperately needed.
They looked to me at least emotionally like themselves again.
Yeah, they did.
Maybe it's the first time this year.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the first team that can shake off the curse of leprechaun midseason.
Maybe so. Maybe they can be. But I will say this about TCU. I think they're still a good team. Like I wouldn't put it past them to beat Baylor at home this weekend. That's a rivalry and a coin flip. But I was after watching them a couple times, I just had to scale back a little bit on them.
They have holes in their swing.
Yes, they have major holes that they're not like a playoff champion contender type of a team for sure. And I think, we wondered, could they be one of those teams? They're definitely not. That was a bad loss. And, it just kind of is what it is. They're just sort of there.
They can hit some taters, but they'll also strike out a lot.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think that's the case. From Justin R., a USF fan who's having a great week. We didn't talk about that. Was that 28-point sequence that they had on North Texas. I mean, like that's the story of the game there, but I don't think it's the story of how the team is in North Texas. It was just the worst stretch that North Texas is probably going to have all season, and it happened against a very good team in South Florida who can, in USF, they can make you pay for it. But let me read a super chat first. Idea for private equity, have them investing in the Olympic sports, but make it a requirement that all Olympic sports are in regional divisions. Good chance fans, parents will travel to the games, put ads on jerseys. It's as good as anything.
Well, the ads on jerseys are coming. That's inevitable. LSU's already lined theirs up, and they're just ready for the flag saying "Go forth."
It starts today.
And as soon as it does, like you'll see that picture in no time on their Twitter account with the whoever Arby's or whoever's going to sponsor them, and then everybody else will follow suit. But yeah, I mean it's a Monday, and we're short on time every Monday during the season because there's so much that goes on, but. The only thing I hated about that was it just made a game that I was really looking forward to non-watchable after about 25 minutes into it. Basically, it was a little bit longer than that. In the second half is when it really just got to the point of like embarrassment for UNT. But yeah, South Florida's legit. They took advantage of some big miscues by UNT. UNT started off that game as poorly as you could have possibly imagined. It was the worst case scenario, but able to hang in for a little while. But yeah, eventually South Florida was just way too much. The mistakes piled up, and the Bulls were clearly the better team when all was said and done. And they are your lead candidate to go make the playoff now. I think a G5 team. They're right there in that mix. So nice, impressive win on the road for them. And for UNT, don't know what's going to take to fill the stadium back up after that one. Like, you worked so hard to get that sellout only to put up a showing like that.
There was just the sequence that was like, I know they weren't going to win the game.
No.
But the sequence that they had in that game where it was just this barrage of turnovers and points.
It was crazy.
That's not going to happen every week, North Texas.
No.
That happened because of USF.
Yeah, it was a competitive game up until that third quarter when things just got completely off the rails. And they got buried and could not find their way out of that.
Yeah, that stuff's not going to happen all that often. When we come back, we've got the top 5, the wheel, the polls, everything else. Oh my gosh, so much to do in so little time. This is 365 Sports.
FlexShopper is designed for anyone who wants the freedom to get new products right away, whether it's electronics, furniture, or appliances, even without enough cash upfront or top-tier credit.
A secret, I travel internationally every year. I struggle with insomnia both at home and especially in hotels. This was life-changing. It's called FlyKit. My favorite aspect of the FlyKit is it tells you when to sleep.
Unforgettable experiences with Forest Travel. Experience the pinnacle of luxury travel with our exclusive global selection. From secluded villas to elegant train voyages, each moment is tailored for sophisticated exploration. Forest Travel.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. I don't know if you heard about this, but James Franklin out after 12 years at Penn State. So let's dive right in to the top 5 candidates that they have. Number 5, Brian Kelly. And here's why I say this. He's a good coach. He is not yet a great coach. He does things, though, that James Franklin hasn't. He has won big games. He finally won his first big opening week game. Now, there are things that I would change about Brian Kelly that I know that LSU fans would change about Brian Kelly because I spend every single day with one, and I know intimately what they want. And I'll say this, Brian Kelly is a far better fit at Penn State than he ever was at LSU. He's from that region of the country. He doesn't have to pretend he's from a different region of the country. There's a lot of different things that he can do there. It would not surprise me if he winds up a candidate as they get down the line, because I'm sure he can feel the tension and the culture clash in Baton Rouge. And this is the perfect Brian Kelly escape hatch. I don't think he'll be their first choice, but I definitely don't think he would be their last, given what he's accomplished in his career. Number 4, this is my actual favorite one of the whole bunch, which makes me think they're probably not going to do it because I'm never really right about these things. Number 4, Brent Key from Georgia Tech. He has taken a moribund Georgia Tech program and turned them into a locker room full of bloodthirsty, badass monsters. Look, are they national championship contenders at Georgia Tech? Probably not. Are they playoff contenders? I think that they are. I think that they could very much find themselves in the ACC title game against Miami. And given the fact that they've beaten Miami in the past, very recently, twice the last 2 times they played them, they could find themselves in the playoff because he has changed the attitude there. Now, what's going to limit Brent Key at Georgia Tech is that Georgia Tech is a small school. It is a very elite academic institution. All these like good things about Georgia Tech turn out to be minor hindrances to coaches. If he's going to stay in the ACC, then he needs to be at one of the bigger boy schools if he's really going to progress consistently over and over and over again to that level. But he's got Georgia Tech at a consistently good level. He is clearly a program builder, and he is someone I would want running my college football team. But let's just say the Brian Kelly scenario happens. Wouldn't you rather have Brent Key if you're LSU than some of the other guys out there? Yes. So being that he's from the South, he's probably a better fit for some of the other jobs that might be open now or might come open in the future. Please don't hire him, Florida Gators. Number 3, Eli Drinkwitz. He is going to come up for a lot of jobs. And look, Missouri is a great job. I think Florida's going to want him because he's routinely beaten them. I think Penn State's going to want him because he is innovative and different and not afraid. He's kind of everything that James Franklin is not, right? And so but also all the things the good things that he is. You know, he's consistent. He's good. He builds winners. Those things happen. And look, how do you get from Mizzou, which is an SEC school and not a top tier SEC job, but one of the better ones in the second level? Like, how do you get them out of that job? Well, you've got to find a school that cares more about football. Now, Mizzou has got a great fan base for pretty much every sport that they have, but you want to find a school that cares more about football than yours? It's probably Penn State in most cases. Like, they are football centric at Penn State and volleyball, but football centric at Penn State. Absolutely. When's the last time you heard about Penn State basketball or baseball or anything like that? This is a football school. A football school. And if you don't believe me, look at all the things they've turned their cheek at to make sure that football continues to roll. That's all I'm going to mention about that, and it's veiled. Number 2, Matt Rule. Look, he is an alum. He is a builder. We know that. But the negative, and there's only one negative to Matt Rule going to Penn State is you fired James Franklin because A, he can't win the big game, and B, you're tired of him. I mean, those two things in whatever. But the reason is the reason. These 2 losses that just happened, okay, you know, UCLA, Northwestern, that's bad. But happening after the Oregon game, you realize you've probably taken it as far as you can go. But Matt Rule also has not won those games, is 0 for 17 in his career against the AP top 20, top 10. Okay, so he needs to win those big games as well. He hasn't proven that yet. I think he should stay where he is because it appears Nebraska's got a good thing going, and that's a place that also cares a lot. Penn State, obviously a little bit bigger when it comes to that recent success, but you know, the pull of the alma mater and the pull of the relationship with the athletic director could be too much. And I wouldn't blame him if he took it. It's his dream job. Why would you not want to be the head coach at Penn State if you were a walk-on linebacker there in the glory days? That is the job that I think could get Matt Rule out of Nebraska. But the number 1 candidate, I think, is Curt Cignetti. Now, look, yes, he's 64 years old. But I do think he's got a decade left in him of coaching before he's done because he waited a long time to be a head coach. He left Nick Saban's staff and then worked his way up, successful every step along the way. And he's got Indiana, a school that didn't know that footballs were oblong until 2024. For God's sakes, beating Oregon at Autzen Stadium. That is a coach. And that is someone who knows how to win the big game. And that is someone who fits what you're doing. And that is also someone in the conference that you can, if you're Penn State, and I promise you, Penn State fans look down their nose at Indiana even still, and right now are looking at them with a tremendous amount of jealousy. Curt Cignetti is the best choice for Penn State right now. And think about it this way. You're not making 20-year hires in coaching anymore. They make too much money. You're thinking about a decade hire. If Curt Cignetti is at Penn State for a decade, they're going to have some playoff wins. I promise you that. This is the top 5. Coming up, the Carnival. All right, joyously, we spin the wheel. What's your celebration spot if your team won a championship? Like a restaurant.
Man, I don't really have one. I don't think. I think my family's more of like a order food in or delivered rather than go out. We've always been more of like a stay at home than go out to places for events and stuff. So if my favorite team won a title, I don't think we'd be going out. It's like some folks would. We'd be like ordering pizza and wings and whatever else.
Having a party.
Having a party at the house,
yeah. I might be the same way, but for the purposes of this question, if let's just say if Florida State wins a national championship in any sport, again, especially if it's in
like baseball,
if it's in baseball, I'm going to make a special trip and say, this is my celebratory dinner. And I'm going to go to, I don't know, pick a specific restaurant, but I'm going to take a trip where I'm going to go have a gorgeous, beautiful, fantastic, expensive steak and that kind of meal to celebrate it. One of those things where it's like, listen, this is a rare occurrence. I'm going to have something else. Or I'm just going to fly to New Orleans and go to R&O's, call it a day.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, Craig, I wish you could have gone there with us, man. If we're back in New Orleans and you're with us, I'm taking you there. You're going to love it.
Yeah. I mean, would like to go back there at some point. Like, I don't know how many trips to New Orleans I have left.
Yeah.
At this point. I want to go at least one more time.
The thing is that Garrett and I did not want set foot in a quarter. Like there's much more to New Orleans than that.
Sure.
And so we really I think Emory went down one time.
He went for a date.
Yeah, he went for a date with a lady. Which Emory's a ladies' man, or at least I'd like him to be.
Good date spot, Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I think he went over to like Canal or something like that.
Gotcha.
Something a little different. But yeah, I would probably do that. Like, just give me a nice big, maybe I go to Oklahoma City and go to Mickey Mantle's. It's one of my favorites. It's one, you and I have been there before. So, okay, trivia questions. Why did referees start wearing black and white striped shirts in football? Fabric Factory had extra black and white, popped on early black and white TV. QB handed ref the ball. Shirt from a rest closet. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even considered the answer to this question.
I mean, it had to be some reason.
I feel like the fabric thing, I've heard that with like uniform stories before.
Yeah.
Of like, well, they ended up wearing gold and burgundy, because like that was the only two colors they had.
Or the cheapest, people aren't wearing these. I'm gonna say a shirt from a ref's closet. Like that, just one ref did it, and they said that looks good.
Yeah. I'm fine going with that. I'm not gonna sit here and debate
Let's
it.
see. I have no idea. If we're right on this one, it's a miracle. Oh,
see, that was the one I was the most confused by. I didn't get that one. I should have asked for clarification.
Yeah. In 1920s college football referee Lloyd Olds wore a plain white shirt like the players. During a game, a QB mistakenly handed him the ball, inspiring a uniform that stood out. Olds created the black and white striped shirt, which solved the confusion and made referees highly visible against team colors. The NFL officially adopted it in 1941, and the zebra look has been a football icon ever since.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim that I was right on that because I wasn't, but that was where my eyes went. I didn't understand it. Now I understand it reading the answer, but I should have asked for clarification. I don't know if he would have been able to answer without telling me the answer, though. But okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
A QB oopsie might have given it away if they put it that way. So I get it. All right. You get one, Andrew. Your losing streak is over. The first live broadcast occurred in this year, 1915, 1921, 1925, or 1930.
First live sports broadcast.
I want to say 21.
KDKA here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's go 1921.
Yeah. Boom.
Bang.
Yes. April 11th. It was in Pittsburgh.
Calm down, Andrew. There's no reason to get so angry. Quit throwing things. It's just one right answer.
Yeah. Boxing match between Johnny Ray and Johnny Dundee.
Johnny Ray and Johnny Dundee, a couple of real go-getters.
Brought to you by Beachman Cigarettes.
Yes.
The healthiest cigarettes on the market.
Yeah, man.
Just 4 months later, KDKA followed with another first by broadcasting the first ever Major League Baseball game on radio. Unfortunately, recordings of both historic broadcasts have been lost to time.
Yeah, imagine that, though. Like, I will say the cigarette smoking back in the day definitely didn't add to the health of everybody in attendance, but it made it look kind of cool. Like, especially in black and white when you got like just this haze.
Yeah.
I remember growing up wondering, like, what is that haze? And then it's like, oh, it's just cigarette smoke. It's like, it's not pyro or anything. It's just cigarette smoke just lingering. So you imagine being a boxer just in this cloud while people are just at ringside just puffing on stogies.
Including your trainers, just like,
Go
for the dribs.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine, because now it's just like, and I used to smoke like years ago, and I quit. And good luck to anybody trying to do that. It's the best thing you could do. But I know for people it can be difficult. But I was lucky to break the spell and never look back. But I can only imagine what it was like when I saw Ron Washington in like the Rangers dugout, and all of a sudden you're just sitting there and you smell cigarette smoke. Like, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the last time I can recall anybody trying to like
just burn in a fire.
Just get around the rules and go slink into the dugout and light one up.
Yeah,
but,
Jim Leland used to smoke in the dugout too.
Yeah. Well, they used to do it
Pirates,
like they didn't have to hide it; they just did it.
No.
Like the players were doing it.
I'm surprised some guys didn't smoke in the outfield.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, they might have for all we know. But that's a cool piece of history. I had no idea, and that would be great if those were still available to somehow listen to or watch. But yeah, it sounded a lot like the impressions we were doing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of Johnny Ray and Johnny Dundee, a real ham banger here in Los Angeles. Got the third round. Yeah, that kind of jazz, I'm sure, was what it sounded like.
Yeah, and stay tuned later for the Pirates Cove.
Yeah.
But let's go to our polls. Let's go to those. Okay. Are you a fan of midseason coaching changes? Yes. Time to move on fast at 56%. No, wait until the offseason, 44%. I would rather not have them in season like that. You know, in the NFL, it's not as big of a deal because you just know that like you don't have to worry about like losing players randomly. I wish it was in the offseason, but the calendar sucks in college football. So
I mean, I don't really have a preference, but if I did, then I'd say, yeah, go ahead and get it out of the way and just go ahead and line them up. I mean, you'd like to just have, but I mean, what good would it do to have Penn State lose another 6 games potentially? I think it would have done Oklahoma State no good to have Gundy still hanging around all these weeks later with as bad as it felt, you know, when they did it just a few weeks ago. So much less 4 losses later, but go ahead and move on. I do wonder about just the big picture, but we can talk about that at another time.
Yeah. All right, next up. Who's your pick to win the World Series out of the Final Four? The Dodgers running away with it. Brewers and Mariners tied in the middle and 24%, and the Blue Jays at 15%. And last I looked before I closed that tab, it was 3-3. It is now 6-3 Mariners at the bottom of the fifth.
Man, they're cruising, and this is in Toronto, so they're about to take potentially a 2-game lead. It's only halfway through the game, but up by 3 runs. You feel pretty good about that. But, yeah, I'd go Dodgers if I had to put my own money on it, and then if I had to make a second bet, I think I'd go Seattle. I just feel like a sort of team of destiny this year in so many ways for a club that has never won a World Series. It feels like, man, maybe this could be the year. The only problem is can definitely see a scenario where they get to the World Series and they run into freaking Ohtani and the evil empire, the new evil empire out west. But I'd go Dodgers.
Yeah, we'll call them the first order since the evil empire's already taken. So that's going to do it for us. Smokey's back tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who watched, everybody who was thanks to Dan Wetzel, thanks to our production staff. We're running over. Let's go. See you later.